Here we are. And if you, in fact, if you look, come to think of it, well, I got to look at this myself. Wow. What a view.
Nobody's gonna know. Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know. How would they know? How would they know? How would they know? I can't. Oh my God!
We have 5 major threats that make our grid extremely vulnerable that we've presented to congressional officials. 1 being cyber, 2 being hackers, 3 being physical threats, 4th one is solar EMP, and the 5th one is man-made EMP. So the concern that we have is that we put out this critical information, and when we go over this risk analysis, they hear what we're saying, but they don't want to take action.
Well, there are 18 critical infrastructures in the United States: food, water, transportation, communications, etc. All 17 of the others depend on electricity.
If our grid goes down, you can't cook, you're not going to heat anything, you can't run any of your medical supplies, you can't talk on your phone, you can't take money out of a bank, and we turn into total chaos.
If this happens, the system stops.
If a transformer is taken down, we have to order it from Germany or China. It's going to take a year.
Up till recently, there were no comprehensive protective solutions available.
We know what the solutions are. They're not expensive. They're not difficult to employ. We just need the political will to do it and the follow-through on the part of the electric utilities to get it done.
The White House is protected from an EMP. The Congress and the CIA and the NSA, all of the areas that need to function in the government are protected. So why can't we be protected?
Around some of these facilities, you don't have much more than a chain link fence to keep people out. Now that seems absurd to me.
I think it is absurd when we now know that attack on as few as 9 grid substations could bring down all 3 major interconnections for the United States grid.
If the power goes out, you get the generator, and if that goes out, you get another one. There's never been a plan for what happens after that.
The director of the National Security Agency, Admiral Rogers, came out and said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
What's up, kids? Let's learn our ABCs.
Come sing along with us. A is for apple.
Apple. B is for bus. Bus.
C is for cat.
Cat.
Shit. Good job, Phil. Good job. What you gonna put that D for? Damn, where the weed at? It's the kids, man. It's the kids. Fuck them kids, man. My baby mama keep asking me about this. I'm like, God damn.
Send the money, broke ass nigga.
I will kill you for real, ho. I promise you to God that. I promise you to God.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah. Oh, man. Don't play with it. Don't play with it. I told you, come on. Let's stop. Let's get back in. Let's ride. Let's ride. Boot up. Let's ride. Yeah, come on. 10 minutes. Yeah. That's it.
Shark do 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 baby shark do 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 baby shark. Mommy shark do 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 mom.
Ah, shit. Cut.
What's your problem? I said, what's your problem?
Try these on.
Look, you crazy mother.
Put these on.
Hey! Stay away from me!
I'm telling you, you dumb son of a...
You
You boys really should have dressed for the party now you can afford it.
No, you gotta listen to me. There ain't no countries anymore. No more good guys. They're running the whole show. You can have a little taste of that good life, too. Now, I know you want it. Hell, everybody does.
Do it to your own kind.
What's the threat? We all sell out every day. Might as well be on the winning team.
I'm Claire. Are you? Don't do it. Don't interfere. You can't win.
Estamos sorprendidos de que nos prendan fuego a la Patagonia. Sabemos que es a propósito, lo tenemos recontra en claro que hay poderes que están del lado, tienen un interés inmobiliario, tienen interés minero, y es algo que ya últimamente lo hacen en nuestra cara y ni siquiera lo disimulan. No tienen nada, o sea, no lo disimulan porque tienen todo de su lado. Estamos sorprendidos de que nos prendan fuego a la Patagonia. Sabemos que es a propósito, lo tenemos recontra en claro que hay poderes que están del lado, tienen un interés inmobiliario, tienen interés minero, y es algo que ya últimamente lo hacen en nuestra cara y ni siquiera lo disimulan. No tienen nada, o sea, no lo disimulan porque tienen todo de su lado.
What is that?
You see this motherfucker?
What's the can say, Damien?
No, don't. You drink grape shit all the time. You're not gonna fucking do this to me and make me out to be the nigga with the grape Kool-Aid and shit all. You gave it to me. You absolute shit. This is why we don't have nice shit. This is exactly why. I'm still gonna drink this motherfucker.
You're gonna like it too.
God damn, it is good.
We want to know what you're reading now.
What I'm reading?
Yeah.
It's a book by a historian by the name of Barry Strauss. It's called The Jews Against Rome. Jews Against Rome.
What made you pick it up?
Well, we lost that one. I think we have to win the next one. We let in, mind you, immigrants from Africa, Ethiopian Jews, who come into this country. I think it's the first time that we have actually transported black Africans from Africa, not to enslave them, but in fact to liberate them.
Shut the fuck up. You're a fucking cunt. Shut the fuck up. You're a stupid cunt. Suck my dick. Shut the fuck up. Stop being a fucking cunt. Shut the fuck up. Nobody even wants you here.
I would say the biggest question from central banks is what is the role of tokenization and digitization? How quickly should they think about digitizing their own currency? What does that mean for the role of the dollar? If every currency digitizes and we have, what does that mean for bank payments? What does that mean for the payment companies like MasterCard and Visa? All these are being questioned right now. I think we spend so much time talking about AI. We're not spending enough time talking about how quickly we're going to tokenize every financial asset and the opportunity we're going to have a digital wallet and moving, ETFs and other things through a digital wallet. And I think that's going to happen worldwide very rapidly. And I think most countries are ill-prepared for that and underappreciate how technology is changing that. Not unlike how technology is changing AI and other things. It will be changing the technology around the plumbing of finance.
Hey, man. Wake up. Wake up.
What it do though? You ever wanted to whoop somebody's ass but you can't cause you ain't got no hands? Well, fuck with me though. All you gotta do is dial 1-800 what's happening and I come beat their ass for you. I do chokeouts, knockouts, slapouts. What's happening, homie?
How you get in my backyard?
You got beef with a nigga named Paul?
Fuck that nigga.
Body slams, wedgies, nigga, I do disguises.
What's up, one brethren?
You been sleeping with Nigel's wife, huh?
No.
You're lying. No. Ladies, if your nigga ain't acting right, ain't paying child support, I'll come slap his ass out for you. What's that, nigga?
Whoa.
You don't take care of your motherfucking kids?
Well, I just paid my ex-wife like
right?
$700.
Cool?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
If you got a chick that's fucking with your man, I don't beat broads up, but I can kidnap their ass like a motherfucker.
What's happening, sweet me?
Hi.
You been messing with Lakeisha's husband, right?
See, I've been knowing Byron since El Camino College. I know him first. Did you know it? And you better not close.
All you gotta do is bang my line. 1-800 what's happening? I come whoop that ass.
Welcome to the Independent Review, a weekly podcast where we bring you the latest from the world of independent journalism.
Had a buddy back in 81 and we made ourselves fine. We headed for the new pipeline and we're never coming back. Well, we worked 80 hours making time and a half and the rain was too damn hot. Drove back down at the end of that week and we spent on pots. I see you in Houston. If I ever get out that way, you in Dallas, but I won't have time to stay together out west, son, and feel like slowing down to see
for me. Can you sing for us tonight? Can you sing as loud as you possibly can to let our good friend Charlie Robinson know that you love him and down here in Texas? Can you do it? I have faith in you. Here we go. I'll see you in Houston. And all that long stay, hit me around the west sun. See you around my hometown. I'll see you around my
Welcome to the Independent Review, live on AM Wake Up, on Odyssey, Rumble, Substack, and the Indie News Network on Twitter. Let's jump right into this first clip from Dave DeCamp of antiwarnews.com.
Hey, this is Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com. This is Anti-War News for Thursday, January 15th, 2026. All right, the first story at the top of antiwar.com today, the U.S. pulls Mideast troops amid threats of Iran war. So the U.S. is pulling some troops from several of its bases in the Middle East as European officials told Reuters on Wednesday evening that a U.S. attack on Iran could come within the next 24 hours. So lots of indications on Wednesday that a U.S. attack on Iran could be imminent. And then there were some signs that might not be the case, and we'll get into those as well in another story. But when it comes to these reports of the U.S. pulling troops out of bases, we saw a similar movement, the U.S. pulling personnel from the region before the Israeli attack on Iran that started the 12-day war back in June. So certainly concerning to see this happening again. And one of the bases that the U.S. is pulling troops from is the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, which Iran targeted in its counterattack, its retaliation for the U.S. bombing its nuclear facilities. And as we have been discussing quite a bit lately, Iran gave the U.S. notice for that attack, gave the U.S. time to evacuate personnel and prepare missile defense to intercept the missiles. But there's a lot of reasons to think that if the U.S. bombs Iran again, that will not be the case, that Iran could retaliate and retaliate hard with no warning, could hit multiple bases. And there's reports that say the U.S. is expecting an Iranian counterattack could target the base in Qatar, as well as U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria. And we've seen continued warnings from Iranian officials amid all these threats from Trump that they would hit U.S. bases in response. Ali Shamkhani, who's an aide to the Iranian supreme leader, he said in a post on X, basically saying that the U.S. should remember the attack on Al Udeid Air Base. And Trump has brushed off these warnings from Iran. So again, I mentioned there's a few indications, reasons to think that an attack might not be imminent. One is that U.S. officials are saying that they don't have enough assets in the region to do a full, what they call, this is a U.S. official speaking to the Washington Post, who said the Trump administration does not have the assets in the region to do a full kinetic strike without risking retaliation. Of course, I mean, it's going to risk retaliation either way, but I think the official means without they don't have enough assets to defend from any significant Iranian response. But the U.S. does have at least 3 U.S. Navy guided missile destroyers in the region. And if you remember, the U.S. airstrikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities were conducted with B-2 bombers. And those bombers were flown from the U.S. When they bombed Iran. So that, that's a possibility here. So the next story here, Trump says that he was told the killing in Iran was stopping. So President Trump said on Wednesday that he was told by very important sources on the other side that the killing in Iran is stopping, comments that come amid all these signs of potential U.S. strikes on Iran. So he told reporters in the Oval Office, quote, "We have been told that the killing in Iran is stopping. It has stopped. It's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or an execution or executions. So I've been told that on good authority, we'll find out about it," end quote. He said executions a lot there. But anyway, so he also, he suggested basically that the U.S. spoke with, Iranian officials about this. And he said that Iran had conveyed to the U.S. that its security personnel were coming under armed attack. Trump told reporters, quote, "They said people were shooting at them with guns and they were shooting back. And, it's one of those things, but they told me that there will be no executions, and so I hope that's true," end quote. So always have to keep in mind that before the start of the 12-day war, there was a deception campaign conducted by the U.S. and Israel to keep Iran off guard, to keep the element of surprise. And one of the things that Trump did on Truth Social, he put out a post saying that he was committed to a diplomatic solution. And this was a few hours before Israeli bombs started hitting Iran, before the major attack was underway, just a few hours before. And according to a report from the Wall Street Journal, Israeli jets were already getting in the air to go attack Iran when Trump made that post. So he was well aware that everything was in motion. So always have to keep that in mind here. And now there's reporting from NBC News that came out on Wednesday night that basically what Trump has said is he wants to be assured basically that if he bombs Iran, that the government, is going to take a hit, that he's basically going to be able to do a regime change, take them out. But U.S. officials have not been able to assure that. There's no sign that the government is in any danger of being overthrown or anything like that. So to do a regime change to take out the regime, I mean, I think the U.S. would have to launch major attacks. I mean, to have a chance of doing it, major airstrikes, sustained bombing campaign that could last days, weeks, months, and of course they're going to be facing significant Iranian retaliation. And this report is basically saying Trump doesn't want that, so it might be a limited attack. And then the question is, we're probably getting hit with a lot of psyops, so it's tough to know what's what when it comes to these media reports. But I do think a big question here is, if Trump does bomb Iran, if he does go for some kind of limited symbolic attack, what are the Iranians going to do in response? Are they going to do the same thing, a limited symbolic attack in response, and then that'll basically be it? Or are they going to hit back hard? That's the big question. I was leaning toward, no matter what the U.S. does, Iran's probably going to try to hit back hard. But now that it appears, it does appear that the protests have winded down in Iran. It's really tough to know, but that's kind of what it seems like. And if Trump does launch some small, limited strike, and I think there's a chance that Iran might have a limited response. But either way, Trump is certainly risking a major war here, but he's made all these threats, and there's other reports saying that Trump feels like he has to do something. He has to bomb Iran because of all these threats he's been making. And I saw Ryan Grimm from Dropside News. He reported that there's basically nobody in the administration right now trying to convince Trump not to bomb Iran. And apparently Marco Rubio is pushing for it, which of course is believable. So I still think the chances are very high here. So the next one here, report says that Kurdish fighters have been entering Iran from Iraq. So Turkish intelligence has warned Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, that Kurdish fighters have been entering Iran from Iraq amid protests inside Iran, and this was reported by Reuters on Wednesday. An unnamed senior Iranian official speaking to the outlet said that the IRGC has been clashing with armed Kurdish fighters dispatched from both Iraq and Turkey. The Kurdistan Freedom Party, or the PAK, which is a Kurdish Iranian separatist group that's mainly based in Iraq, they have been claiming attacks, that their armed wing has been conducting attacks inside Iran against Iranian forces. On Tuesday, PAK claimed that its forces launched an attack on an IRGC base in western Iran. In the Reuters report, and these claims of Kurdish attacks come as Tehran is accusing the U.S. and Israel of arming what they call terrorists inside Iran who have attacked Iranian security forces. And we do have numbers from that line up from both government sources and the Western-backed NGOs that are putting out death tolls that over 100 Iranian security personnel have been killed. So that certainly suggests that there have been armed attacks. And so when it comes to the Kurds here, the U.S. has a significant presence in Iraqi Kurdistan, in northern Iraq. They have a military base in Erbil, which is the capital of the region. And they also have a huge consulate that they just recently opened. Apparently, it's the biggest U.S. consulate in the world. So that means they got intelligence assets in the region. And the Mossad has long been said to have significant assets in Kurdistan and, of course, inside Iran as well. So, there's a possibility here that there's some support for these Kurdish fighters inside Iran. Again, the Mossad has a very long history of covert operations inside Iran, covert attacks, assassinations, sabotage, bombings, things like that. And we've seen reporting from Israeli media saying that foreign actors are arming people inside Iran, and that's the reason why hundreds of Iranian security personnel have been killed. That was reported by Israel's Channel 14. This is what Channel 14 reporter wrote on X on Tuesday. Quote, "We reported tonight on Channel 14, foreign actors are arming the protesters in Iran with live firearms, which is the reason for the hundreds of regime personnel killed. Everyone is free to guess who is behind it," end quote. So, one of the reasons that we could see Israeli sources putting that out and Mossad, claiming that they have people in the streets and everything is because there's probably some truth to it, but also I think they're trying to get more people killed. They're trying to get, more violence, more bloodshed to get the U.S. to go ahead with bombing Iran. And one thing that's very different about June is that all the indications are if there is an attack here, that the U.S. is going to take the lead. There's even reports suggesting that Israel plans to sit this one out, even though this is clearly would be a war for Israel. But apparently they might not want to get involved here, even though, how many missile interceptors did the U.S. use in its defense of Israel? And of course, they launched the airstrikes on the nuclear facilities, but Israel might sit this one out, even though this is something they of course, really want.
Next, we have this clip from Cognitive Dissidents with Monica Perez, Hervoye Mork, and Parallel Mike.
Hello everybody, Happy New Year's, welcome back. This is the first Cognitive Dissidents of 2026. I'm Parallel Mike and I'm joined by...
I'm Monica Perez from The Monica Perez Show.
I'm Hervoye from Geopolitics and Empire.
Well, Happy New Year to you both. It's nice to see you again. You know, I thought for the first show of the year it would be a quiet one, but nope. It's already all kicking off. We've got invasions and kidnappings. Or actually, we're not allowed to call it that, apparently. We're meant to say, what is it, some kind of extraction? We'll get to all of that. But yeah, Donald Trump now claims that he runs Venezuela. So I think we've got a lot to discuss on this one. It feeds into so many of the other narratives that we always comment on to do with technocracy and one world systems. So where do we start with this one? Actually, maybe the best bit is just to discuss the very first part of it, which was the extraction, as they're calling it, of Maduro and his wife. What did you guys make of that? It seemed very smooth, very almost cinematic. Went in, got him, and then there's all these videos of him being paraded by the DEI in the US, which again, it just looks a little bit too Hollywood for me. But yeah, I'll hand it over to one of you two. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, I was completely. First of all, it happened on like the Friday night, Saturday morning of the new year. It wasn't even in the Saturday Wall Street Journal, so it had already been digested, but it came out on Monday. I think there's like a picture of Maduro with a thumbs up, Masonic symbolism and his first court appearance, supposedly. But what struck me the most was that, yes, they're calling it an extraction. I sent you guys a clip from NPR or whatever, hat tip to Sir Tim, that said it was that he was extracted and that the CIA had been there since August to make sure it went smoothly. And in my mind, it was so smooth, so seamless that, and to call it an extraction, kind of, you know, that's what you call it when it's your guy. We got to get that guy out of there. And they were shooting at the helicopters on their way out and not on their way in. And it just seemed to me, you know, I don't know when that whole thing started, but at one point Trump said, hey, we'll give you guys safe passage to Maduro and his wife. I feel like either that was already in the works or he said, okay, and they took him out and they are actually leaving his government in place so that they can prevent a coup or whatever. And to me, when Trump said we're running Venezuela, to say something like that, to me, it sounds like a cover. So they are that government cooperated. They're cooperating through the transition. They are going to just get back into the international fold, take orders from the U.S. And I think they get to bluster. It looks like a fight. I think even the opposition that's emerging right now, there's already been an expose of how it's financed by like the same people who were doing No Kings or something. Like it's really very theatrical at this point. And let's talk more about how that segues into the Don Roe doctrine. But Roy, what was your reaction?
Just before I hand it to you, Roy, just before we move on from the kind of reaction, I just want to show listeners what it actually looks like. So this is just Maduro getting off the helicopter, and you can see it all kind of looks pretty cozy, actually. And there's a really interesting part of this bit where he looks to the sky and he looks like he's come home. He looks really happy about where he is.
Wow.
It's very bizarre. And I'll pause that one. And then there's this one, which is like, you know, you've just met your cousin after 10 years and hey, how's it going? He's got the thumbs up. He's got a smile on his face. It doesn't look like some of the past regime changes that we've seen. This looks more like it's for, media consumption, like everyone's friends. So, my take on it was that it was all planned. Maduro's pretty happy. He has maybe got a deal and him and his wife are going to be looked after. So, that was my take. I'll hand it back to you, Roy.
That's the synthetic AI Maduro. Some of the extreme conspiracy theorists are going to say Maduro is dead and that's his cyborg, synthetic, humanoid, biologically constructed. That's all AI. It's fake. But I think there's a lot of the theory. Some people say Maduro was sold out by his own someone in the Venezuelan military. But then kind of to what you guys are saying, that doesn't seem to completely add up. And some of the more extreme theorists say that, as you say, Mike, a lot of the global elite, East and West, are sort of connected back channels together, and some deals were made. And I always have to use visuals for myself. It's kind of as a teacher thing, but also to make it more interesting for the audience, and you guys see my screen, yeah? And I just said, this is exactly how I felt. It says, I feel like
Yes.
I'll miss the invasion of Greenland. And I was at the beach, and, I still have connectivity, but not as much. And like all this stuff is happening, New Year's, and it starts with a bang, Venezuela, and then you hear the news like Germany, the power's going out in Germany, cyber polygon, and then it's just completely.
I'm going to read that for the audio listeners. And I will say this meme that you shared, I actually shared that with my kids immediately because it was so funny. It says, I feel like if I go to bed too early, I'll miss the invasion of Greenland.
And then next after that, Cuba, and then Nicaragua, and I have to go back to past guest Nikola Mikovic, based in Serbia. He tweeted this out. He says, we did the podcast maybe 2 years ago. He said, we will live in the world dominated by the West for a long time, and it feels to be the case. It says. He says U.S. actions in Venezuela have clearly shown that what I told Jorge 2 years ago was correct. This world is and will remain dominated by the West for a long time. My warmest regards to all those who still believe in the multipolar world narrative. And we'll get to this later, I think, when Mike talks about the tokenization. But I feel, Brent Johnson and all those, we've talked about this before, the rise of the stable coins and all that. It feels like American Empire 2.0. And then just to add, this was an RT article that came out, and I was on Expat Money Online Summit VIP panel in October last year, and I said if we see military action in Latin America, it's going to be Venezuela, followed by Cuba, and then Mexico. And this RT article says Cuba and Mexico are next, and I think it adds Colombia, and then we've got the Greenland stuff, and Canada. So I think that they might, and then I think Rubio, and then George Friedman of Geopolitical Futures just posted an article saying Cuba's next. So you're seeing all these people pick up the signals. You can see this larger trend that it's about the techne, and I think it'll happen differently in each location. So, for example, in Mexico, they're not going to take out Scheinbaum. Maduro in Venezuela was a different situation. In Mexico, they'd leave Scheinbaum. She's globalist. They would just do surgical strikes on cartels and stuff like that to clean stuff up. And I think this goes. We can get into this, but just to show the map, like if we look at, here's the map of the Techne, the official map of Techne of America, 1930. Like this is literally it.
Wow.
It's Greenland, it's Canada, it's USA, it's Mexico, it's Cuba, it's Venezuela,
and Colombia.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That is crazy. And this is the thing that Elon Musk's grandfather or father, whatever, was involved in. Is that the Technocracy Inc. from Canada, or is this something different?
Yeah, that's it. It's the same thing. But it's like the picture says 1,000 words. It's like, what, all these people talking about oil. It's like, yeah, that's one part of the larger puzzle. The larger puzzle is this. This is even just the mid-range puzzle. The bigger one is world government. So they're putting the technates in place. And I've said previously, we had Putin come out recently and say how we should if we put together the GDP of Russia and Europe, we'll have a bigger GDP than USA, saying like we should integrate and work together. And here, this is the map of 1984's George Orwell's blocks of Oceania, Eurasia,
yes.
And East Asia. And like this is literally what's happening. And they're all, the technate of the Western Hemisphere is coming into being. We're watching it in real time. I said Oceania we're watching it being built before our eyes. And somehow they want to form the Eurasia, and Putin was pushing that. And so those are just some of my quick thoughts. And then you've got we should talk about the alt media. Patrick Burns is a CIA agent. Alex Jones is CIA for all it's worth. Byrne admitted that. Remember, did we talk about this last time? I showed the clip where Alex Jones was promoting regime change in Venezuela to impose technocracy. Or it wasn't.
I don't remember. He's obviously.
So there was a clip a few weeks back, and Byrne was on the show saying we should regime change Venezuela to install digital governance and blockchain and biometric ID accounts. And Jones was like, yeah. And then Burns came into the studio a few days after that saying, I've been a CIA agent for 30 years. And they're both laughing. And now he says, Intel experts believe Cuban intelligence. So Cuba was holding Maduro hostage, and Trump's raid was a secret white hat QAnon rescue mission. They
said that extraction thing is a dog whistle term. So it's so funny that the conspiracy theories have been so weaponized to muddy the water. I mean, in large part, it's like you're handling it correctly, which is it's laughable, you know?
Yeah, and then I mean, we don't have to play this whole clip, but Andrew Tate. I mean, we're really seeing it come now, where Andrew Tate did a 3-minute clip of saying, "Let's take Venezuela, let's take everything," you know. And his father is CIA, Patrick Byrne is CIA, Alex Jones' dad is CIA, Tucker Carlson's dad. It's like you're seeing this legacy all alternative media. Just yeah. So I'm gonna there.
The
Did
beginning
anyone
of this. Yeah,
enjoy
sorry.
watching Alex Tate get emasculated by the worst boxer in history?
Oh yeah.
Man, that was terrible. As an ex-boxer, that was the most disturbing fight.
When was that? I normally watch the boxing.
He had a contest about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
oh, it was terrible. I mean, for someone
Yeah.
that supposedly was a champion kickboxer, it looked like he'd never put on a pair of gloves
Yeah.
before. But yeah, it kind of ruined his image, but I don't think it matters. Like you
No.
were just saying, Roy, he's a special agent. Sorry, Monica, you was about to say something, so I'll hand it to you before continuing.
I was just going to say this, what you're talking about, these guys saying, like, let's take Venezuela, all of that relates to a breakdown in fundamental principles and the transition from kind of the Ron Paul Bill of Rights as a touchstone, that reawakening of American foundational principles, to the Trump thing, which I highlighted in 2015. As soon as he started taking off, I said, hey, this guy never talks about the Bill of Rights. That's a problem. That you become untethered. You're just liking what he's saying, but it doesn't have that foundation that Ron Paul has. And this is the consequence of that. And not only is the activity that he's spearheading, that Trump is the face job for, the problem, but the people who follow Trump and the cult of personality have lost the touchstone of how to evaluate right and wrong, good policy and bad policy. So they just give them big snaps. And these puppets who lead their particular, gangs, subgroups, obviously feed right into it.
Yeah, what do you actually make of the legal aspect of this? Do you think it even matters at this point, the legal side of things? Is that just window dressing for what's happening?
I mean, we don't have international law, but I guess, yeah.
No, I mean, and I've seen these comments. There's like a handful of people in my Telegram, which I think are, what do they call that? The ghost army, the official, that's the ghost army, the Psy war, mind war, was it Aquinas, the guy's name, Michael, whatever
Aquino,
Aquino. And I've got these two people, and they play this game. They try to they use my name, they try to sort of develop this fake friendly relationship with me, and then they promote MAGA, Trump, tardness, QAnon, and saying, yes, there's this law under U.S. law we can regime change and extract. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is insane. You're just like so. But, there are memes coming out by that logic. Russia can do what they did in Ukraine, and China can take Taiwan, and Israel can do Gaza, and anyone can do whatever they want. And so, for me, this is completely illegal by all standards, U.S. Constitution, international law, whatever.
But when they were doing this originally with the Middle East back in the day, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and beyond, they had the expression American exceptionalism, which people in the United States thought of as American extraordinariness. Like, we're this, extraordinary nation. Like, we have these freedoms and it results in a lot of prosperity. That's how they thought about it. But what the word actually means, America is an exception to the laws of sovereignty. So the laws are supposed to remain in place, but America has an exception to them. And then if you just extrapolate that a little bit, and obviously the name of Roy's show anticipated this for a decade, it's empire. It's just empire. And the problem with it is it's built on this lie of democracy because the people don't really want this empire. It's a new world, and it's fundamentally immoral. And we want fundamental morality because we know we're protected by it. But it's empire, and that's what it is. And that's what American exceptionalism is.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back throughout the history of U.S. interventions in Latin America, it's just been one long line of going in there to pave way for the corporations and for the globalists to actually take over. we wouldn't have maybe used the word globalist before, but now when you zoom out and you see how it's all coming together in this end game with the technate, you can say, oh yeah, the whole time it was just piecing together this jigsaw ready for what we're actually seeing now. And for listeners that don't know, I've just got a few of them on the list. So starting in the early 1900s, we had Cuba, Panama, Honduras, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Nicaragua, Mexico multiple times, Guatemala, Cuba, Dominican Republic again, Chile, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Grenada, Panama, Haiti, Venezuela, Bolivia, and now Venezuela again. And yeah, I don't think it's the last. And just before, go ahead, Monica.
Sorry, then not to mention the silent ones like Ecuador, maybe Peru. And your article on Venezuela was fantastic. I was going to ask you how you researched that, Mike. But anyway, finish. Sorry.
Well, that one nearly broke my back because it took me about 35 hours. So I wasn't happy with it. I was like, if I'm spending this long on an article, it's too long. So
it was amazing.
It
was. I just was blown away. Like for 1 second, I was like, maybe Mike has somebody working for him.
AI.
But
Did it in AI
was
5
like,
minutes.
nah.
Tell us the truth. I'm just kidding.
Well,
no, I know. I was like, no, definitely not. But it was really, really good.
Well, I knew some of it. What's interesting is that Venezuela was actually a key country for a long time because obviously listeners will know that their oil reserves are the largest known oil reserves in the world. But if you go back to the 1970s, and you deserve credit for this because you was the person who really got me interested in Iran's history and the Shah of Iran. And going back to when the petrodollar was made, if you think about it, what happened was Saudi Arabia made this secret agreement. They said, we'll provide oil for the world, we'll price it in dollars, and then we'll recycle all those dollars into US debt. And that's what allowed globalism to really work because it spread the dollars everywhere and created a globalized world where all of the trade was happening in one currency for commodities. But here's the key part is Venezuela and Iran were two of the largest oil producers on planet Earth. So I theorized that a key part of the secret agreement in the petrodollar agreement was we're going to take out Venezuela and Iran's oil production. And it's no surprise that Iran and Venezuela both had their oil production destroyed. And that obviously filtered all of the trade to the Saudis. So the Saudis could do that and buy up all of the US debt. If you had Iran and Venezuela with oil sovereignty, that could never have happened because they could have easily vetoed and said, well, we're going to sell oil and we're not going to sell it for dollars. And obviously, we know over the next 50 years when Iraq tried to sell oil for euros, they got taken out. When Libya tried to sell oil for gold, then Gaddafi got taken out. And obviously, what we're seeing now with Maduro looks a little bit different to those interventions. So I think this one is not, this one's probably a legitimate, we've done it together. And he wasn't, I don't know. I mean, maybe Maduro is a bad guy in terms of he's opposed to the US, but seeing how they took him out, it's not the same as Iraq. It's not the same as Libya. And so,
Syria.
anyways, my
it's
point
not the same
is,
as Syria.
no. And the other part of this as well is remember the petrodollar agreement has now collapsed. So this is why I think they're moving on both Venezuela and Iran now is because that deal with Saudi, it doesn't make any difference anymore. The dollar is dying. And I think they're going to go to some kind of new system. And in the new system, who controls the commodities is going to be king. It's not about controlling a currency like the dollar. Obviously, it's not really the US that's behind all of this. It's the banking cabals who are creating the one world beast system. I'll hand it to you, Monica.
I want, sorry, Roy, did you want to say something? Because I want your response to what I have to say, but I don't want to change.
I had a question for you guys related to this, but go ahead, Monica.
All right, let me tell you my thing and you do that. And then, so I've noticed that they blame it on socialism. Like the Maduro thing collapsed because of socialism. North Korea is because of socialism. But if you dig into the recent past, like from 2017, a little before that, 2004, you even went back to the 70s, Mike. What they do is this is a really tight international system. And all you have to do when you want to isolate somebody, want to bring a country to its knees, and Hervoye brought this up before about the intentional internationalization of networks and supply chains so that you're absolutely vulnerable to any kind of disruption, they will disrupt that. And then your economy will collapse, your ability to access markets, your ability to sell your stuff. becomes negated, and then it looks like it's your ideology. But my contention is, with current technology, any ideology will work if implemented in good faith. Socialism, communism, fascism, I don't like saying that, but nobody needs to starve if any system were implemented in good faith. And that, I just like on the ground seeing probably that closer. I'm wondering what you guys think.
I think that's brilliant. That's totally it. I've already had people commenting on my article saying, oh, yeah, it's because they went this socialist path, stupid Venezuela. I'm like, well, if that was the case, how have the Saudis, with a nationalized oil company, managed to be the best producer of oil for about 80 years? They produce oil for like $10 a barrel. So that is the same as a socialist system. You've got, in that instance,
Alaska does that.
Yeah, exactly.
Texas pays for its schools with oil money.
Norway does it. So it's not about the system. That whole system of socialism versus capitalism is to get people to cheer on the globalist when they're applying this strategy where they send their corporations into places and take over. It's purely theater. I mean, of course, there are ideologies at play, but I see this all the time with these so-called capitalists. It's like, you're not cheering on capitalism. You're not cheering on
Socialism
capitalism.
in Venezuela would have worked just fine if the oil companies hadn't removed their investment. I understand they're saying that because, like, nationalism, but they already nationalized it. They were willing to make deals. Like, they could have cooperated. I mean, it's probably going to get too detailed for me to know the ins and outs, but I could definitely figure it out. And every time I pull on a thread like that, it seems to be that removing the international support and not giving them access to trade for the commodities that they have that would make them prosperous in the world market is enough to bring them to their knees. And then the Liberation Day, Venezuela liberation, is not really liberation from socialism. It's liberation from Western sanctions.
Well, we could make the same argument with Russia. Russia seems to do a pretty good job of producing commodities, and that's not a capitalist or free system. China's not a capitalist or free system.
They were not brought to their knees by sanctions because they are their own international order. Like, they can control with their few alliances, they can control all their supply chains. They have commodities and stuff. I mean, maybe, does that ring true? Like, it seems to me Russia was not brought to its knees by its sanctions because it is not a one-trick pony.
What they did when Russia was going, when Russia during the Cold War, when Russia was considered separate to the West and it was not meant to have any interaction, was the West just opened up a load of shadow companies and factories in Russia. So it's not like the West wasn't there. And it's the same in Venezuela today. There's Chevron working in Venezuela. It's not like there's no American oil companies. Chevron's already over there. So there's always foots in the door. And it's the same with debt, for example. Morgan Stanley in 2017 gave them nearly $1 billion and bought a load of the distressed Venezuelan debt. And the Rothschilds have been in Venezuela. They was helping to restructure the debt. So all of the key players still get access to these markets. When we get told there's sanctions on them, it's like, yeah, sanctions for thee, but not for me. It's just a bit of smoke and mirrors. But yeah, I think the thing with Russia is Russia has been successful because the difference, well, when Vladimir Putin first came into power, one of the first things that he did was take back the oil from some of the Western companies. It was Khodorkovsky, but behind Khodorkovsky was Nathan Rothschild in the UK. He actually owned Russia's oil and gas industry. He had huge controlling shares in them. So, yeah, what we're told and what's actually happening is always two different things.
Now, we take a look at these two clips from the Indie News Network.
Who are these people?
Now, I also we're going to get to this really quick lightning round, and then we'll do the GoFundMes. First, we talked about Ecuador last month and Prospera and the election that was over there. Yeah, this idiot. But the election that happened, they had to disband the election because it was so obvious that it was rigged that nobody accepted it, and they had a redo. But as it turns out, when we had analyzed it, I actually thought that the guy that would be friendly to the Prospera initiative would be the one that would emerge, because both of them were pro-Trump. And originally it was the other one that ended up being named the president. Well, that's a do-over. It's actually this guy, Asfura, who ended up being declared the new president of Honduras with 28,000 votes more than the last person, right? But before review of all the inconsistent ballots even got completed, they just shut it down, right? Bro, they're attacking countries for their colonies. They're going to war with Honduras over the network state. They are not playing the entire world is in grave danger. We literally just lost a fucking country to venture capitalists. Welcome to tech fascism. This is going to happen over and over and over again. It's a strategy that they're rolling out worldwide. Corporate-run cities. If you want to know a little bit more about that, check out Last American Vagabond as well. Ryan Christian's been doing amazing work on that. Yep. And GoStart pointing out that they'd already run Richard Medhurst and George Galloway through the grinder, and other journalists as well. Sarah Wilkinson. Okay. So this is another thing that had happened over the last month, is that the EU sanctioned a Swiss colonel for speaking out against Ukraine and for telling the truth. So I'm going to just leave a headline here, and I'll link the article afterwards on the Substack. But this is about pay, obey, or get debanked. We talked about Francesca Albanese being sanctioned by the United States and being unable to get reimbursed for health care, but it's way, way worse than that for her. But this is a new method that they're using, is to sanction individuals to make sure that they can't bank, that they can't live, that they can't exist in society unless they go along. So that's Jacques Baud, is the Swiss colonel. All right, the EU's decision to sanction him is a demonstration and a warning of things to come. All right, who is he? A former Swiss intelligence officer and military analyst, had not been accused of espionage, violence, or criminal activity. He's been sanctioned for analysis, more precisely for analysis that contradicts the dominant EU NATO narrative on Ukraine, Russia, and Western escalation. Again, read that whole thing. I'll post a link to it later. I also found this really good piece. Now, Christian is the founder of the Eisenhower Media Network, which is Matthew Ho is a part of, and it's former U.S. soldiers and members of the military that are now against the military and call it out for what it is. So he published this article about how corporations view and own the military. And again, I think this is a really important piece to look at the money. Follow the money. I've always said follow the money. And how it executes its control and what you get as a result of it. All right? And all the different, this is just all the bases that we have in the Middle East. Right? In the Indo-Pacific. Finally, I did want to mention about how fucky ICE still is being. It seems a CBP agent brake-checked a guy following him, causing a rear-end crash, and then after briefly detaining the driver, they let him go, but a week later, they blew up his front door in a highly publicized raid with videographers on hand while lying about what happened. They used explosive on a home in Huntington Beach, California, while a mom and child were inside searching for the father. He was accused a week earlier of deliberately crashing into an unmarked CBP vehicle, but video appears to contradict that claim.
That was just not right.
We did not get a response to questions about why federal agents let George go, then a week later used such high-risk tactics to arrest him. He immediately turned himself in. Prosecutors didn't request detention, and a judge sent him home the same day. The Times found no past record of violent offenses. In the federal complaint against George, the prosecutor mentions a previous incident when he allegedly heckled Border Patrol agents. But he's officially charged with injuring government property. And the crux of the case is the accusation that George deliberately collided with the Border Patrol pickup, which had stopped in a manner that should have allowed any car traveling behind him to stop safely. But this claim is directly contradicted by the agent himself.
I was going to go off the curb, but I couldn't, so I slammed on my brakes and he was right on me.
And the allegation of a deliberate collision is not evident in the footage. In fact, brake lights indicate George is braking as soon as the pickup begins to stop. In mid-July, Bovino posted this ominous video of the raid at George's house, with text warning people will face justice regardless of their immigration status. The next day, George finds out the federal government has dropped the charges. His case is dismissed.
So nobody pays for his front door. Nobody apologizes. Like, no accountability whatsoever for Border Patrol. Fuck those guys. Nobody, like, they can't be sued. Like, that. Maybe they'll pay out years later if you can hold on that long and you can afford to sustain it. Man, dark. Sorry, everyone. I wish I had better news. There's a lot of shit happening in the world, a lot of fuckery, and it needs to be reported because otherwise it gets swept under the rug and people don't know. And then narratives form that things aren't as bad as they seem, or that that's nonsense. We see it all day long here. All you have to do is look. The thing is, a lot of people choose not to look or are actively trying not to look. So again, support independent media because we need it more than ever. I don't think a lot of places are bringing up those stories in a group. Ways to do that: Cash App, $, Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, at paypal.me/Indie News Network, patreon.com/Indie News Network, our website, self-hosted at indienewsnow.com. You can leave a tip over there and keep the media free that you want to see. And that's our thing. Support the media you want to see. User-funded, independent, ad-free, corporate-free, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist. Also over at the Substacks, INNnewsletter.com and IndieMediaToday.com. Thank you again for supporting independent media. Thanks for supporting me. Have a good night, and we'll see you soon, fam. I love you.
INN News. Let's go to Vanessa's article real quick. And then we'll get to the stuff about Trinidad. Because they're part of this problem too. Unfortunately. Hold on, I'm going back to it. I only had 100 slides that I've already like 86 multiple, you know. Where's it at? Here we go. So, friend of the show, Vanessa Beeley, wrote 14 like points on this Venezuela thing, right? On the 6th anniversary of the Trump assassination of Haj Qasem Soleimani, by the way. I don't know if they marked that in their calendars, but definitely a bit of like circumstance there. But here's what she writes. So the Trump campaign to regain control of Venezuela oil is a remake of the 1953 CIA MI6 coup Operation Ajax in Iran, where they orchestrated the removal of Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh after he nationalized the Iranian oil industry in 1951. British and U.S. control of Iranian oil supplies was immediately restored when they replaced Mossadegh with the dictatorial Shah. Trump has announced that the U.S. will take back control of their oil interests in Venezuela. Point 1. Venezuela oil industry is not in good shape. Decades of sanctions have deliberately prevented any investment of renovation of the equipment, etc. Venezuela oil is heavy crude, which would need specialized refineries that exist in the so-called U.S. Gulf. It would need an estimated 40 to 50 billion to fully restore the Venezuelan production to pre-sanctioned viability. And I saw that like Chevron and the U.S. was willing to subsidize. They're like, we'll pay for it. Give us the oil, we'll pay. You know, so like that's where your tax dollars are going to go. You know, but this will take time. There is a potential that ultimately Venezuelan oil will reduce the dominance of Saudi Arabia in the oil market but not entirely. There is an argument that this is in preparation for a war with Iran to compensate for any Iranian closure of the Hormuz Straits, but this means that the war is not imminent because Venezuela is far from being a done deal. The preferred option for Zionists in the U.S. is to continue a hybrid war against Iran, sanctions, and fomenting internal conflicts and clashes, perhaps deploying Takfiri proxies in Iran. However, a clear message has been sent to Iran. The kidnapping of Maduro and his wife took place on the anniversary of Trump's assassination of Soleimani, the message being that decapitation of leadership is an ongoing threat to stability in any country that opposes global hegemony. Both Russia and China have significant interests in the Venezuelan oil industry. Ian Millall writes, Beijing holds roughly $19 to $20 billion in loans to Venezuela tied to oil for loan deals. A new U.S.-installed government can simply declare those debts illegitimate and refuse to pay them. Venezuela was also China's most reliable partner in the region for energy and military cooperation. Chinese refineries are built for Venezuelan heavy crude. A U.S. naval blockade and a chance in government mean that oil will likely move through Western markets, likely cutting China out. China has multiple projects in Latin America to sideline U.S. dominance in their own backyard. The Nicaraguan Grand Canal, to rival the Panama Canal, has stalled to economic, environment, and political hurdles. The Brazil-Peru bi-oceanic corridor, a rail and port system connecting Brazil's Atlantic coast with Peru's Pacific coast, significantly reducing transit times and costs. The Colombia Dry Channel, a proposed railway linking Colombia's Pacific port of Buenaventura to the Atlantic, offering a rail-based alternative. And this is all similar to like things in, the Middle East as well, the Belt and Road Initiative, all that stuff, right? We've talked about that as well. Removing Venezuela from the occasion for both China and Russia will seriously impact on their strategic footprint in Latin America. China more than Russia is a clear strategy by the U.S. to weaken or even entirely block China's expansion into what they consider to be America's backyard. It is also clearly perceived as a precursor to destabilization in Cuba, Colombia, and Brazil, with the Zionic Isaac Accords already poisoning the Latin America well in Argentina, Costa Rica, Panama, and Uruguay. The U.S. is ensuring the rise of right-wing regimes in the region, most recently in Honduras. Fee pointed out the timing of the Chinese delegation to Venezuela is of interest. Were they trying to protect their interest in the knowledge that the U.S. was planning to retake control? The fact that it appears no man-pad missiles were fired at the incoming helicopters and drones, and no shots were fired to prevent the extraction of the president is very troubling. Very similar to what we saw in Syria. So as happened in Iran during the first 24 hours of the Zionist aggression in June 2025, that does not answer why there was no hand-to-hand combat in the palace itself, and there appears to be no protection surrounding the president. This is all conjecture, which will be modified as more facts come to light. We'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, Trump said when he was asked how controlling Venezuela's energy supply could impact relations with them. We're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We have seen this pragmatic approach being rolled out in Syria with the almost immediate normalization with the al-Qaeda regime put in place by Turkey, Israel, and the U.S. axis of terror. Ian Millall also pointed out that Trump operation will perhaps embolden comparable actions from Russia and China. Dozens of Chinese ships sit near Taiwan. Aircraft cross into this air defense zone almost daily. Drills practice blockades and landings. Beijing now has the political language and the operational blueprint to move regional stability, restoring order, an illegitimate regime, and national security. Former British diplomat and West Asia specialist Alistair Crook has argued the U.S. national finances are in very bad shape, and this is leading to Trump's seizure of global resources to prevent the collapse of the U.S. dollar. This could certainly be one factor in the White House Pentagon calculation. In Vanessa's opinion, the costs involved in the resource grab operations will offset any benefits, thus this will only delay the U.S. financial juggernaut hitting the barriers. The protests on the streets of Venezuela and the powerful statement by acting President Delcy Rodriguez point to the possibility of a popular 2002 Chavez-style push to have Maduro released and returned to Venezuela as president. Many believe that Trump's inherent narcissism will not permit such a concession from the U.S. What is for sure, however the operation was carried out, whoever supported it and endorsed it behind closed doors, the Venezuela people will pay the ultimate price for the incoming instability and insecurity that comes with colonization and the capture of resources by a predatory entity. Khalid Jabbar wrote this morning, Venezuela feels like Iraq all over again. Invade, disrupt, install, no international mandate, no accountability, no thought for the chaos and violence left behind, civil strife, migration waves, proxy blowback. This is regime change by force. And once again, there's no plan for what happens next. Empire disrupts, it seizes, it stages photo ops and calls it peace, then it abandons the wreckage. The worst consequences are likely yet to come. So great stuff from Vanessa. Any thoughts, boys?
Nah, we've talked enough about Venezuela.
Yeah.
I just wish that my friends who are on the right would take a look at this Venezuela situation and be as upset as I am about it. Not necessarily for the same reasons, because we're different people, but when you have a sitting president of the United States that says, we're going to take all the oil, we're going to take all the oil from the country, and we're going to make Venezuela great again. How is making Venezuela great again doing anything for making America great again?
Right. Right.
That's all I want to know from my friends on the right.
We can't even take care of our own, much less.
We can't even fix our own problems.
Right.
There's an old adage, the plumber's house is usually the first to flood. And here we are. We're worried about eating off of somebody else's plate when we can't even fix our own. It's ridiculous.
And you know what? We're in an election year. I don't think this is going to go, and I feel like Republicans know it. This is not going to go as well as they are trying to have you believe. Because I forgot where I saw this from, but I guess the number one news story that occurred this past year was inflation.
Yes.
That has been the most significant story that was peaked pretty much consistently.
Cost of living, yeah, of course.
Right. So you're talking about saving Venezuela. Meanwhile, at home, people now, and you, Joe, you can speak on this a little bit more than me, but like the ACA subsidies expired today.
Yep, gone.
People are going to complain, have been complaining about healthcare costs going up. People have and will continue to complain about food going up. People are going to continue to complain about housing going up, public transportation going up, and no relief in sight. And I felt like I said this a lot last year, like the damage is coming. And I feel like we're just about there, to the point where people are seeing money going out the door for Israel, money going out the door for Argentina, potentially money going out the door for Venezuela. Meanwhile, when it comes to our folks at home, oh no, we can't give you anything. Like,
we can't give you Medicare.
I think they're going to try and spin it, but for the regular schmegular people, they're not going to go for it.
Nope.
And they're going to be very angry.
Nope.
So they're going to, and they know it. They're going to be like, well, just get done what we want to get done and get enough damage in, and then maybe the Democrats, assuming they come into power over the next few years, maybe will try, and maybe will clean up the mess. You know, they won't, or very minimally, that it will be insignificant, and we'll just continue to rot.
Yeah, and America's cooked. We are so cooked. This country is so cooked. We are fried, broiled, boiled, baked, flambéed, roasted, toasted. This country is done. We are so done in this country. My gosh.
we have this clip from Macroaggressions with host Charlie Robinson.
You may or may not have noticed that we are in the middle of color revolution. It's been run on us, well, at least us here in the States. For those of you in Europe, you probably have had the pleasure of experiencing one of these yourselves over the last 25 years, depending on the countries that you live in. So what I want to do with this episode is I want to go into, kind of drill down into a lot of these color revolutions that have happened around the world and find the common denominator. There is one. You'll know the name when I say it, but I want to kind of drill down deeper into the individual revolutions that were taking place over the last 2 decades or so, and we'll mention them all by name, and we'll wrap up with what's coming on. Well, what's currently happening here in the U.S., but what's on the calendar and coming for 2026. Spoiler alert, it's not great. It's not the end of the world, but when you see this play out in front of your eyes in the future, I think it will help you to understand a little bit better what you're up against, where we're going with things. Because if I say this in advance, that you're going to see X, Y, and Z in the new year, and then the year comes and you see those things, I'm probably on the right track, right? So how would I know that? I'm not getting into a meditative state and pulling this out of the ether, okay? What I'm doing is I'm looking at the past track record of the groups that are conducting color revolutions around the world, and then in studying how they do it, I can then extrapolate how they'll probably do it against us. And calls for a little bit of speculation, but not too much, because if you know the steps to how you take down an existing government, there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. Once these people figured out how you do it, it's about replicating it over and over again in foreign countries, right? A little different, the accent is different. The strategy is not. And we'll talk a little bit about, where what we've had to deal with the last couple of years in general. And I think that if everybody in the country were to understand, and this is not going to happen, of course, this is a fantasy, but if you were to somehow get the individuals of a country to understand what a color revolution even is, then they might not even know there's a name to it. They might have been experiencing some of these issues over the years, but never understood that there was a bigger strategy to it, or that there is a term that defines the experience that they're currently living through, when one government that seemingly was fine, I mean, they're never really fine, but it was your government that was operating yesterday, and then today, magically, there's a huge problem with your government. It just has to go, and it can't wait for another election. It's got to go immediately. If we have an election, it'll be a fake one or whatever. So for those of you who have lived in the countries of Georgia, Ukraine, Kyrgyzstan, we'll go through all of these, Lebanon, Tunisia, Egypt, Armenia, and a variety of countries that lived through the Arab Spring in 2010, 2011, then you know what I'm talking about. You know a color revolution when you see one. And to be clear, this refers to the term color revolution. It refers to the early 2000s up to now, this century. Regime change operations in the former Soviet Union, China, and the Balkans. They are financed by globalists, the globalists. They're financed by global operators like George Soros and Open Society Foundation. Of course, we're going to focus mainly on them today, but it's not to say that there aren't others and that there won't be different ones in the future. It doesn't really matter too much. If we understand the behavior of the Open Society Foundation regime change operation, and you watch what they did in one country and then moved on to another country and replicated this over and over again, by the time they get to your country and you have eyeballs and you're aware of what's going on, it'll be crystal clear to you. I mean, you'll see things. I mean, geez, you know, if they were going to pull a color revolution in America, there would be signs, you know, like the looting of every Target in Minneapolis or every Foot Locker in the entire state of Minnesota, and the protests and the Black Lives Matters and the murals of the fist on the sidewalks in Washington, D.C., on the fucking streets themselves of Washington, D.C. You know, if there was a color revolution, man, I surely would have noticed it. Oh, did you? Did you notice? Because it happened in 2020. Or did you have your head up your ass? Or were you social distancing with your friends, worried about an imaginary virus with a 99.98% survivability rate? Because while everybody was scared to death of COVID, a regime change operation was being launched on America. But we'll get to that. We'll wrap up with that. So what they do, this is the strategy, and it's not like that complicated. If you've got the money, the access to power, I mean, you know, and you've got the desire, you'd be surprised how quickly and effectively you can change the thought process of the general public to get them to vote a certain way or to see the world through the eyes that you want them to see it through. And we watched this with Operation Gladio in the, I'd say, early, 50s, 60s, 70s, where they were waiting for the Soviets to come back in and finish off what they had started, and they never did. And so they had these embedded stay-behind groups, basically like domestic terror cells that NATO had created, and they put them all over Western Europe, waiting for the Soviets to come back. They never came back. They got bored sitting around waiting for all this time. And then they said, well, we could use these to, shape political discourse. We could, this guy's running for office and he's getting really popular and he's a socialist and we can't have that. So let's set off some bombs near his place. Or let's say that his people set off these bombs. So the idea of manipulating public opinion through domestic terror is nothing new. The Israelis claim to be Menachem Begum was once said that he, somebody accused him of being a terrorist, and he quickly corrected them and said, no, I am the godfather of international terrorism. So the Israelis have been doing it for a while. NATO's been doing it for a while. The idea of using covert terrorism to shape the narratives inside of a country to start the ball in motion to get the current administration out of there and a new group that, of course, the regime change operators are secretly wishing to install off to the side. That is not organic. You may have legitimate reasons to complain about your shithead government and the politicians that are running them. And those would be, you'd be right to have those feelings, of course. But what if the way in which you went about changing the attitude of the general public wasn't running an ad campaign that was better than what the people had promised before, or telling the people that, I'm going to give you this, this, and this. Sometimes, actually, the most effective campaign that you can use against people is not this, I'm going to promise to give you all the good things that you want when you run for office. Sometimes the best campaign that you can run is a terror campaign. It's unfortunate. I don't think that this is how you should be creating the government in which you live under. I don't think that using terrorism is the best way to get things done for the long-term survival of your people. But these aren't decisions that are made by people that are looking at long-term. They're not intending to put their guy in a position of power and then that guy will be there for 50 years. I mean, it'd be nice to them if it happened, but that's really not the goal. The actual goal is to stop what's currently happening and then put your guy in to, rekey the locks or undo all of what the previous administration has done. But the key is not, it's not necessarily to put a new person in there who's going to change things and send them in a different direction. The goal is to just stop what's currently happening. If you can get a fire break in there between the current administration and what will eventually become the future different administration, you do it. Just go in there and create chaos so that they have to focus on you and they can't focus on the other stuff that they've normally been doing that was giving this outside group the reason that they were mad in the first place.
Next is this interview with Rachel Blevins and Patrick Henningsen.
Me now to discuss is Patrick Henningsen, a journalist, geopolitical analyst, host of the 21st Century Wire, and writer at patrickhenningsen.substack.com. Patrick, thanks so much for taking the time to join me.
It's great to be with you, Rachel.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on the show. Now, I want to get your take on the latest here, as over the weekend, the U.S. military bombed the sovereign nation of Venezuela and then kidnapped its elected leader, Nicolas Maduro. They then brought Maduro and his wife to New York, where they are now going to court on a variety of charges. And they seem to be holding Maduro as this kind of trophy of, look what the Trump administration was able to pull off. Now, the indictment against him in the Southern District of New York reads like the Trump administration's airing of grievances, where they say that Maduro isn't a legitimate president, and that he maybe had cocaine and also machine guns. So I know we've been waiting for months to see what Trump would do. Will you start by giving me your reaction to the course of action that the administration chose?
I'm pretty speechless at what's happened, how it went down. I mean, it surprised a lot of people. And of course, the proponents of this action, supporters of Trump, will say, "Oh, isn't this wonderful? He has surprised everybody." That is what this president does. He's so unpredictable. And, he's using force. And Pete Hegseth, Rubio are saying, and no president in history has ever been able to, impose the will of the United States like this president. But the problem is, what is that will? What is the will that's being imposed? And this has broken every U.S. domestic law. This has violated the Constitution. It's violated the 1973 War Powers Act. It's violated every bit of international law you can imagine. It's also undermines a whole host of treaty law that the United States is a signatory to, as well as complete violation of the UN Charter. So there's nothing legal about it. And the flimsy justification that was given was that they said they had a right to bomb Venezuela on the way in to protect the soldiers who were carrying out an arrest of the president of Venezuela. I mean, it's just insane. So they said scorched earth policy is justified. Terrorism, they cut the power. They hacked the electrical system, or had paid somebody locally to shut a lot of the power down in the city to make it dark. And then they attacked buildings and they killed people. We don't know the extent of that yet. And they said this was justified because the U.S. officials were executing an arrest warrant. And what is that arrest warrant based on? I mean, I was hoping for something substantial, but of course, this Department of Justice doesn't disappoint. Possession of machine guns, like what is that? If you're the head of the armed forces of your country and you're charging with possession of machine guns, I mean, who even uses this term machine guns anymore? Is that even illegal in the United States, by the way? Don't think so. So, Maduro is going to be a martyr for the Second Amendment for MAGA. I mean, just imagine. So, they running this through the Southern District of New York court. Okay, so by the time, that's the slowest court in the country. So by the time this goes to trial, it's going to be in 18 months, maybe 2 years. But, I mean, it's going to be a very long time. So Trump might not even be in office by then. He may have already exited office. So he will not have to, he likely will not face the music, because there is no evidence to connect Nicolas Maduro to drug trafficking, not in a U.S. court. Okay, if they did this in the Eastern District of, Virginia, in a national security court with a fake docket, fake evidence, and the jury is all CIA and NSA employees, I mean, I could see maybe they could convict there. But I think this is just going to collapse. If there was any evidence that implicated him in drug trafficking, it would have been plastered all over the global media 6 months ago, or more. It would have been, the last president would have done it. Biden would have done it. So they don't have any evidence. It's all fabricated, all of it. And people say, well, how do you know? We've seen these things play out with other criminal cases and convictions. And something this high profile, that's supposedly this obvious, that's supposedly this massive, there must be plenty of open source evidence available or documentation available. Something that you could show the public to justify what is a sort of brazen violation and a very, very dangerous precedent internationally. The United States would have to justify it. They haven't shown anything. So that means they have nothing. It's pretty certain they have nothing. When has the U.S. government ever been straightforward and ever produced any kind of coherent or legitimate case to indict or to criminalize some world leader? Never. It's never happened in history. And they want us to believe that this time, the 86th coup, that somehow they have an ironclad case against the head of state. I mean, you really have to be stupid and delusional to believe that that is the case. And this just is going to play out with the same old charade. They've done the action, and very cleverly they bought time, approximately 18 months. They don't really have to prove any case. So, and they've done something else, Rachel, that is very, very cynical, and I would say quite vicious, is they fabricated charges against Maduro's wife as a narco terrorist or whatever. I mean, it's just patently ridiculous. She is, of course, involved politically because she is the first lady of Venezuela. I mean, so she's politically active like every other first lady in every other country. Okay. So but the reason that the U.S. did this, very cynical, they didn't want her on television advocating for her husband. They didn't want her to be the international symbol of anti-U.S. defiance. That's why they did it. So they figured they'll hold her on remand on fake charges. I mean, it's just so, the level of criminality here on the U.S. part is unprecedented. And I will even say in so many different ways, this is much worse than the Bush neocon criminal cabal. This is much more open and brazen, and the Trump administration's intending to eviscerate, to nullify all law, all rule of law, all rules of engagement in military. So they want to wipe all of this off. And that's just international anarchy that we're looking at. That's why it's really dangerous, because in the interim, since this has happened in 48 hours, Donald Trump has threatened to remove the president of Colombia, the government in Cuba, and those are just two that I know of. So they've already got, two other countries that they've publicly threatened. Now, these are not countries that could fight the U.S. militarily. So the problem is, in this international environment where nobody, even the British and the Europeans, Ursula von der Leyen, the EU, has endorsed the regime change operation, pretty much. Keir Starmer in the UK is terrified to answer the question of whether this was legal or not. I mean, he's visibly terrified. He's afraid of criticizing Trump because he knows if they do, then they don't really have anything to say about Ukraine, Russia, or anything else. And that goes for every other European leader or international leader. And that goes for the entire Democratic Party as well across the aisle. They're terrified because they're kind of on board with it. They support it. The New York Times is supporting this illegal operation. The Washington Post is on board. The CIA. Now we can see you always speculate how deeply have the CIA penetrated into editorial desks in the United States. And I would say they're in control of the Washington Post and the New York Times. If you look at the pre-headlines when the initial stories were breaking, they're saying, rumors of U.S. bombs in Caracas and more to come later, kind of. And we already all knew what happened. And the New York Times alerts and the Washington Post alerts, if we could go through them, it's embarrassing. So they're fully on board with the operation. So the U.S. media is on board. The Democrats are on board. Donald Trump, who's going to restrain this president? This is the scary thing. Where is this going to end? They've also threatened the Iranian government. They've said that Trump said, if they shoot any protesters in Iran, which it's their custom to do that. I don't know what he's talking about. And at the same time, Mike Pompeo is boasting that Mossad, pray for the Mossad agents in the crowd. So if a Mossad agent gets caught, gets shot, or a Mossad agent shoots an Iranian, and that makes its way around the global media, and then Donald Trump will use that as justification to bomb Iran. And lo and behold, we find out this morning it's very likely that they've already made the decision to bomb Iran. And they were just going to use that as an excuse. What has Iran done? Nothing to the U.S. So the U.S. has two unprovoked wars of aggression against Iran. They've gone and kidnapped a head of state of a UN member state on zero evidence and openly said they're doing it and they're going to take over the government, steal the oil, steal their gold, steal their silver, steal their minerals. And if anybody is in charge in Venezuela and we don't like the way that they're acting or we don't like what they're saying, we're going to take them out, says the Trump administration. So what are the other governments thinking? I mean, the governments that are already afraid of the U.S., like the Gulf states and others, they have to think about this. And Rachel, I mean, over the New Year's break, there was a drone attack on President Putin's residence, 91 drones. And all the U.S. shills in the media said, there's no evidence of this. Putin's just making it up. Well, the Russians just handed over the drone evidence to the U.S. military yesterday in an official ceremony. So it did happen. And it happened right at that moment during high-level negotiations, ostensibly. And this is technology the Ukrainians could not have developed themselves. And we all know that the CIA are still working with the Ukrainians, as our British intelligence, as our NATO intelligence. So was that an attempt on either the president of Russia or their nuclear command bunker in that location in the Russian Federation? Is somebody, are we dealing with rogue, reckless superpower states here who believe that they can just get away? That we're looking at World War III. I mean, that's kind of a hyperbolic sounding thing to say, but these are the sort of things that would lead to that kind of a situation.
This next clip is from Scott Armstrong and his show Bot Stoppers.
I got to come up with a name for this segment. A State of the Tech segment, okay? And now we're going to get into how to kill the robots. So this is how we're going to kill the killer robots, folks. This is what we all came here for. This is what we're all about here at Bot Stoppers. Killing killer robots. Now, this first clip, again, was from about 12 years ago. Again, like on the last episode, it seemed like there was this big push to get sex robots and all these. There was a lot of robot talk like 12 to 9 years ago, and then it kind of fell off. There's not as much content out there over the last decade or so. But so I found this video. This is from 12 years ago, and this is called The Plan to Stop Killer Robots by a channel called Seeker. Let's see what he has to say.
And killer robots.
Hold on, let me start that over.
The UK wants to ban killer robots, but I mean, who in their right mind doesn't want to ban killer robots? And is a killer robot going to really obey a frail, puny human ban on killer robots?
Good question, good point.
Finally standing up and saying what we were all thinking. Killer robots are bad. The campaign to stop killer robots is a real worldwide...
Okay, so then, do you guys remember last week how we found that organization that was determined to stop sex robots because of the objectification of women and blah, 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 and how it would cause men to want to just all of a sudden start performing sexual acts non-consensually? I guess we can maybe say that on YouTube. Okay, so that, and it's like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, I get what they were saying. But now we found a new organization, folks. This is actually an organization called the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots. And I'm like, okay, now this is what I was looking for.
Organization, and it sounds kind of dumb when you first hear the name, but they're less worried about Daleks and Terminators than they are about actual defensive robots and autonomous weapons. The campaign is a global coalition started by 22 worldwide organizations like Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch.
Okay, well, I'm probably not going to be aligned with those folks, but just because it's just like liberal, globalist nonsense for the most part, that are probably actually involved in a lot of human trafficking. You know, that's what those organizations end up being all about. So we're going to put all that aside, and we're going to be like, okay, cool, I'm listening. If we're talking about killer robots now, I'm listening.
Idea is to preemptively create legislation to ban drones and other robots which can autonomously decide to kill an enemy and act on that decision without a human giving the go-ahead. And while it may seem like that sort of
Which is happening right now. I hate to tell you, buddy, but that's happening right now in Gaza and Palestine, occupied Palestine. It's happening all over the world. They're using autonomous killer drones right now. So the campaign to stop killer robots, not successful.
As far away, members of the coalition say it's seriously not, and they have serious backgrounds in the field. The campaign is led by Jody Williams, who won a Nobel Prize.
Okay, Jody Williams, I might have to get her on the show.
As in 1997 for leading a similar effort to ban anti-personnel landmines. Noel Sharkey, who is a member of...
Look at these guys. Like, I don't know if we'd get along.
The coalition and an artificial intelligence expert at Sheffield University said, if you asked me to go make an autonomous killer robot today, I could do it. I could have you one here in a few days. Oh, okay. The British government responded to the whole event with basically, whoa, chill guys, we are not even planning that. But the coalition is worried that...
when the government says, don't worry, we're not going to kill you, that's when you immediately have to start figuring out a way to stop them from killing you. When they're like, guys, don't worry, we're not going to kill you. Don't worry about it. That's the biggest red flag in the world.
As technology gets more advanced and reliable, governments are going to find fully automated systems more and more attractive. You know, they seem...
Yeah, I hate to tell you this too, buddy, but like, look at the Hegseth and the boys. They're all in on this autonomous AI kill machines. They just, but they might as well change it to the Department of Autonomous Murder. That's what they should change it to. Like they just change it to the from the Department of Defense to the Department of War. I say let's just call it what it is. The Department of Autonomously Murdering Everybody.
Cheaper. They seem more efficient. There would supposedly be less chance of fatal mistakes being made. Right now, the closest thing we have to an autonomous weapon is probably the Phalanx system, which is this turret on US and British naval ships that can automatically identify...
Okay, so this is 12-year-old technology, so we're way beyond that. So good job. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. But let's take a look here. So this is stopkillerrobots.org. Again, this will all be in the Substack with all the sources. So Stop Killer Robots. We're going to probably continue on with these folks. They do have a YouTube channel with a bunch of videos, so I'll probably save that for another episode, but we'll dive into it. Let's see why we exist. Let's go. Let's see what their mission statement is. With growing digital dehumanization, the Stop Killer Robots Coalition works to ensure human control in the use of force. Our campaigns call for a new international law on autonomy and weapon systems. And so this is a fundamental difference between these guys, these Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, because what they want to do is they want to create coalitions and they want to have think tank meetings and they want to have international law put in place. Well, we've seen how effective international law is, and it don't mean nothing. If you get found guilty of a crime in international law, America, Israel, countries like that just go... They laugh at you, okay? So stop killer robots. What are we doing to actually stop the killer robots? How are we going to kill the killer robots? That's what these guys need. That's the real conversation we need to be having. How do we develop weapon systems effective enough to stop killer robot armies? Not just one killer robot, but massive killer robots. So this organization, if they were at all useful, they would be focusing on building advanced weapon systems. Are you guys stop killer robots? Are you guys ready to start building weapons? Like, that's what we need to be doing. Like, we can't sit around in meetings and boardrooms and discuss and make laws and rules that nobody's going to even acknowledge or abide by. What we need to do is we need to kill the killer robots. That's what it is. Now, this is hilarious. So the caption of this video is AI robot kills itself after 15 minutes of wage slavery. Let's watch. So there he is. He's shipping boxes. He's grabbing boxes. And then he's just like, yeah, I'm just like not into this. And he's like, I'm done. He just kills himself right there. There you go. That's funny. That's funny. Okay. Now, Vortex Cannon versus drone. Look at this thing. So this is a Vortex Cannon. That's a drone deterrent weapon. So take notes, folks. We're taking notes. We're in the research phase of the research and development phase. We don't have a development division yet, but we are in the research phase. And this is the Vortex Cannon.
Marvel of engineering, you might just find protecting you the next time you're at a public event. That's got a lot of people. And while this just might look like a boring old drone, it's actually one of the fastest in the world. It's autonomous, and it weighs 5 times more than is typical. Because the purpose of this drone is to lock onto a bad guy drone trying to do bad guy things, and then smash it into 1,000 pieces.
Nice.
Now that drones have become so incredibly cheap, fast, and maneuverable, it's only a matter of time.
So we need Vortex drones that will come up and bam, smack yours out of the sky. Okay, so drone. See, again, that's the theory, the principle of you fight fire with fire. So we need robots that can destroy the robots. We need drones that will defeat the drones.
Before they're used to carry explosives, to attack key infrastructure, or even worse. But before you get too worried, there's some good news here. And so today we're going to take a look at all the latest technologies being developed to combat this very possible scenario. And then after we see how the pros are doing it, we'll investigate how a few backyard YouTube engineers would handle the same problem. And I don't want to give too much away, but it might involve giant dart turrets, Tesla coil water guns, and the world's largest vortex cannon.
And this is what Bot Stoppers is all about. So I gotta see, these guys are already doing what I want to do. So I gotta just team up with these guys. I gotta get a hold of them. So let's just scrub through this video real quick. We got
frequency, or most popular consumer drones and frequencies means this would have no effect. Method number 3 is high-powered lasers, where you basically just heat up the outside surface of the drone so high that it catches fire. And this works pretty well against plastic drone casings. But once again, there's a weakness.
What if I just hang a 5-cent pie tin? It takes orders of magnitude more energy to burn through a metal reflective pie tin. It just doesn't work.
The next method is a focused beam of microwave energy like an EMP. The goal here is to induce a current in the drone electronics so high that it fries the brain of the drone. But as Palmer explained, all a bad guy has to do to mitigate this is to buy some cheap copper tape from Home Depot, and once you cover the body of...
Yep, there you go. Oh, I'm going to back this video up, okay? I might not be able to I'll save the rest for next week. We're just going to go through this video, and then we're going to call it good. We're just going to go through this whole damn video, because this is what Boss Stoppers is all about right here.
Infrastructure, or even worse. I don't want to give too much. He set the stage.
The United States has the ability to defend against fighter jet attacks or bomber invasions, and zero ability to control what happens in the first few hundred feet of our airspace. That's the thing we have to solve. We have to tame the Wild West.
Palmer explained to me there are 6 primary ways to take out a drone with bad intentions, and every method has a major flaw, except for number 6.
Who is this guy?
Or bomber. Out of the gate is the dude who dropped out of school at 19 years old to invent the Oculus VR headset. And right out of the gate, he set the defense, where I met up with their founder, Palmer Luckey.
Okay, Palmer Luckey. Okay, so I might... Okay. Damn. Okay, I know this guy. I've heard of this guy. I actually don't know much about him. I need to research, but I think he's in the Palantir bad guy class, I want to say.
recognized as the dude who dropped out of school at 19 years old to invent the Oculus VR headset. And right out of the gate, he set the stage.
The United States has the ability to defend against fighter jet attacks. We have to solve. We have to
He looks like a globalist scumbag. Globalist scumbag.
tame the Wild West.
Palmer explained to me there are 6 primary ways to take out a drone with bad intentions, and every method has a major
I don't know. I'm Palmer Lucky and I are about to be best friends. I don't know.
flaw, except for number 6. The first is jamming, where you just overwhelm the drone with fake radio signals so it can no longer hear the instructions from the human operator and they lose control. 70% of all consumer drones are from DJI, and they actually provide the equipment to law enforcement that will jam the communications like this. The second method to take out a drone with bad intentions is hacking, where you remotely hack into the drone using the radio signal, and then by exploiting known problems in the software, you can take control and force it to land or
There you go. Okay.
crash.
So we're
But Palmer
hacking
pointed out the
drones.
Potential Achilles heel for both of these first 2 methods.
All they have to do to bypass that is use a different brand of drone, use a different brand of radio, use a different frequency, or build a drone.
That's the thing. It's going to be a constant arms race between, trying to figure out a way to stop these things, and they're going to figure out a way to block that method that we've developed to stop them, and blah, blah, blah. It's just going to be constant back and forth. So we need something a little bit more sustainable.
Drone that doesn't even need those frequencies in the first place.
Basically, by using something besides the most popular consumer drones and frequencies means this would have no effect. Method number 3 is high-powered lasers, where you basically just heat up the outside surface of the drone so this method in the drone electronics so high that it fries the brain of the drone. But as Palmer explained, all a bad guy has to do to mitigate this is to buy some cheap copper tape from Home Depot, and once you cover the body of the drone, it becomes practically invisible to this attack.
You can reduce the amount of power that gets to the internal electronics from an EMP by orders of magnitude.
And that means a microwave beam gun that was previously able to fry a drone at 2,000 meters away now only works if that copper taped drone is 2 meters away. So now the beam gun is basically
Beam gun don't work.
Coming in at number 5 are nets fired in the air from other drones. And this makes sense if you're trying to capture the bad drone for forensic investigation. But net carrying drones by default are going to be slower and less maneuverable, so they're beatable with speed and agility. Now all this would be real bad news were it not for the 6th method that even works if you designed a super drone that combined all the tricks to defeat methods 1 through 5.
I'm curious,
And
I'm
it's
listening.
possibly the oldest method of destruction known to man.
Blow it up.
Smashing stuff. And because this method is foolproof, Andrew makes a blazing fast drone appropriately called Anvil, whose only job is to use kinetic energy to bust up a dangerous drone into thousands of pieces.
A baseball fast.
Okay, there you go. We got-
Class now.
Okay, short of Palmer Lucky type stuff. What do we
Bad
got?
guy-
I want to know what these YouTubers are doing.
Drones trying to take out faster and larger drones where you would typically have to fire a Patriot missile. But unlike a Patriot missile, Roadrunner costs an
A little Roadrunner.
is mega turret that fires a 6-shooter barrel worth of preloaded mega darts. And so to properly test out how effective this was, I called 3 of my engineering buddies who also came up with their own ideas on how they would tackle the problem, and it sort of turned into a 4-person backyard engineering competition. So in addition to my mega turret, their designs might include a fully electrified drone squirt gun, a vortex cannon that could do some real damage, and even a very
Damn, these guys got some budgets. I mean, this guy's got 72.5 million subscribers. This video has 35 million views. So let's get the channel up there, boys, and we'll be able to do some of this stuff too.
scrap engineering. It's called Hack Pack, and it's basically a series of really fun programmable robots that get delivered right to your door, where we build it together and learn step by step on the ground and lay down a path of dominoes right on that. You can sort of like for verified new hacks, like the path where it's complicated.
That was just an ad.
Journey of discovery with me. Just go to crunchlabs.com or use the
Move it that way.
Lucky for the boys, the turret got distracted as the first drone took to the sky, pausing at a height.
Okay, so this is just being goofy. They're just shooting these big Nerf darts at it. Like that's not what we're here for. What is this guy doing?
For your drones!
This feels like it's bigger than necessary.
This is the VRAD cannon, avian defense turret. Avian defense. So what? You scare birds with that? Yeah, and shoot down drones.
And this concept was actually invented 200 years ago by farmers shooting at hail clouds in the sky to try and save their crops. But then they found a far less speculative application was just to shoot it towards birds to scare them away from eating all the seeds in the field.
You're gonna look so silly if the drone doesn't get shot down with this thing, Kevin. Giddy up.
And when you mix just the right amount of oxygen and propane in a combustion chamber and then give it a spark, you basically get a single-shot rocket engine.
3, 2, 1, fire! Fire!
Wow, Kevin. Real impressive.
Whoa.
And it absolutely...
Kevin. Real impressive.
Damn it.
Oh, God!
Whoa, look at that. Okay. So we need big
absolutely
cannons.
destroyed the drone.
Oh, my God!
Okay. Big avian defense cannons. Avian defense cannon. Okay, look at that. They've got a few different cost. Whoops. Cost. Avian defense cannons. Mid-range, 400 to 900. Okay, good to know. The Zon scare gun, Zon Mark IV propane bird scare cannon. Yeah, see, I don't think that's going to quite do it for a drone, though. But I like the idea. A propane-powered cannon. Add that to the list, folks.
This next clip is with James Corbett and James Evan Pilato with New World next week.
Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And I'm James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com. If copyright lasted forever, it would be very difficult. We have got that awesome story, plus UK scraps digital ID. But first, withdrawing the United States from international organizations, conventions, and treaties that are contrary to the interests of the aforementioned United States. Taking this from whitehouse.gov by the authority vested in me as President Pilato. By the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, I hereby direct Section 1, Purpose A, on February 4th, 2025, I issued Executive Order 14199, withdrawing the United States from and ending funding to certain United Nations organizations and reviewing United States support to all international organizations. That executive order directed the Secretary of State, noted fashionista Marco Rubio, in consultation with the United States representative to the United Nations, to conduct a review of all international intergovernmental organizations which is the United States is a member and provides any type of funding or support, and all conventions and treaties to which the United States is a party, to determine which organizations, conventions, and treaties are contrary to the interests of the United States. The Secretary of State has reported his findings in Executive Order 14199. I have considered, this is all so formal, I have now considered the thing I just mentioned in the Section A, and after deliberating with my cabinet, had determined that it is contrary to the interests of the United States to remain a member of, participate in, or otherwise provide support to organizations listed in Section 2 of this memorandum, consistent with that executive order and pursuant to the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of America. I hereby direct all executive departments and agencies to take immediate steps to effectuate the withdrawal of the United States from the organization listed in Section 2 of the memorandum as soon as possible. For United Nations entities, withdrawal means ceasing participation in or funding those entities to the extent permitted by law. James, are decades happening again this week?
It certainly appears that way, doesn't it? And yes, this is pretty significant, although the 66 international organizations, it involves a little bit of padding. Some of these are sort of rump organizations and advisory bodies that aren't really effective and don't really do anything anyway in the first place. So whatever, it's just makes a bigger list. But there are some very, very significant withdrawals here. Obviously, the UNFCCC/IPCC. For people who don't know about that, please check my archives. I have a couple of decades of archives going on right now, and all of that garbage history of the way that the people's natural concern about the environment has been co-opted by the billionaire oligarchs for their globalist agenda. And this is a genuine huge removal of one brick from the edifice of that globalist wall that's been constructed for decades now on the back of that propaganda. So it's an important event, and let's not downplay that. Also, the UN Population Fund. I'll throw in a link to a news about superpowers article on Trump's withdrawal list masks U.S. pullback from climate security and development bodies, where they talk about some of the fact that, some of these organizations that they're withdrawing from are not so important. But it says specifically about the UN Population Fund that the withdrawal from that fund entrenches earlier funding cuts and narrows the options for U.S. aid and health agencies to support reproductive health and demographic programs through a widely used multilateral platform. Well, good riddance. Stupid nonsense waste of, U.S. taxpayer dollars, certainly. And I think governments around the world should take note that these types of organizations are a grift. They are absolutely a grift by globalists and bureaucrats and technocrats that are trying to make money off of these types of programs that are fundamentally, in many cases, anti-human. And so I'm certainly not crying over the loss of any of that. Now, having said that, of course, right moves for wrong reasons. We're starting to see that more and more in various different ways. We can get a sense of that from the New American article that we're linking up here on UN Trump. Trump exits entire UN climate regime. Is it dead? Where they note about what does U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio have to say about this executive order? He took aim at the UNFCCC in particular, highlighting, among other concerns, that the bureaucracy created under the UNFCCC was squandering millions of dollars on funding for climate alarmist anti-energy investment in the West Bank and Gaza. Yeah, that's why we're removing America from the UN. It's because those damn UNers are trying to help the Palestinians, right? Well, anyway, right moves, wrong reasons. What else is new? But I am certainly celebrating the fact that the UNFCCC has just lost at least one of its fangs and has become a little bit more toothless than it was before. That is to the good.
A lot of grift being busted and exposed, and a lot of this started as soon as Trump was reelected, and Elon and Doge, and we're going to expose all this corruption and waste in government. Again, these guys are broken clocks. They've turned out to be right. It's looking like 2 times a day. Memes of Secretary of State Marco Rubio wearing different giant coats is a thing now for some reason. That's how we get going on New World Next Week, episode 615. Our second story, maybe a little bit of a not unmitigated good news episode. Our second story is always fun to hit, James. Betty Boop, Nancy Drew, Blondie, and more officially in the public domain for 2026. Grabbing this from Paramount Sinai and CBS News. New Year's Day commemorated the passing of time and the start of a new chapter, so it's fitting that same day, January 1st, also represents an opportunity to breathe new life into thousands of creative works nearly a century old. As of January 1st, 2026, characters like Betty Boop, Nancy Drew, and a variety of popular movies, books, and songs have entered the public domain. They join a growing list of cultural icons that are no longer under copyright protection, as we have reported for you here in recent years, including Popeye the Sailor Man and the Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse. The year 2026 marks the first time that any copyrighted books, films, song, and art published in the 1930s have entered the U.S. public domain. As of January 1st, protections expired for published works from 1930 and sound recordings from 1925, essentially 101 years old. Some of the most notable works that are available for free use by anyone to remix, remake, reuse, satirize, destroy, make into adult or horror films, or do whatever you want to them. The Murder at the Vicarage by Agatha Christie, the first novel featuring elderly amateur detective Miss Marple. The Secret of the Old Clock by Carolyn Keene, the first appearance of teen detective Nancy Drew, and 3 of the follow-ups. I do have some of those back on the shelf. James, you know I have the collector disease. And the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew books they all go well on a shelf together. They all, if you ever saw people or in the schools collections of National Geographic, to see that many of a collection, I love it. The Little Engine That Could by Waddy Piper, Fleischer Studios' Dizzy Dishes, the first cartoon in which Betty Boop appears, Disney's The Chain Gang and The Picnic, both depicting the earliest versions of Mickey's dog Pluto. the initial 4 months of Blondie comic strips by Chick Young, featuring the earliest iterations of the titular character and her dum-dum boyfriend Dagwood. The film All Quiet on the Western Front, directed by Louis Milestone, Best Picture winner at the 3rd Academy Awards. King of Jazz by John Murray Anderson, Bing Crosby's first appearance on film. Animal Crackers from the Marx Brothers, Big Trail with John Wayne. But Not For Me by the Gershwins, just one of the greatest all-time pop tunes, along with Georgia on My Mind by Hoagie Carmichael, Dream a Little Dream of Me, Piet Mondrian's painting, composition with red, blue, and yellow. I love to hate on Jackson Pollock and Mark Rothko and then just put on a... Then I learned later that, of course, the CIA used that degenerate art as part of the culture war against the Soviets. But stuff like Mondrian, James, the one I can mostly think of as Broadway Boogie Woogie, did have some art in public school. The original Betty Boop, early Nancy Drew mysteries, and Mickey Mouse's dog Pluto among the creative works. When a copyright's protection lapses, it lands in the public domain, allowing anyone to use it, to build upon it, to see as they see fit, for free, without needing permission. If copyright lasted forever, it would be very difficult for a lot of creators to make the works they want to make without worrying about being in the crosshairs of a copyright lawsuit. But just because, as I believe we've warned in years past, James, just because the copyright expired doesn't mean that everybody can do everything to it. The original Betty Boop from the 1930s is in the public domain. The modern version is not. I'm not sure how much they rebooted that. So to avoid any infringement, any reuse would need to steer clear of her newer characteristics. And this was the same thing with the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse from a couple years ago. Additionally, the character is subject to multiple trademarks, which further complicates its use. James, we just synchronistically, I feel like, watched Hell's Angels last Friday in Monarchy, Howard Hughes' stunning film from 1930. It is actually tying into a longer bit of my work that I'm going to do about the invisible hand, liberty versus authority in American television and film. And you and I should maybe talk a little bit more about that as this year goes on. Hell's Angels was stunning, James. It's like a 95-year-old movie, maybe better than any new movie I've seen this century. Have you ever seen it? It's real. It's real buildings blowing up. It's real planes explode. It's bonkers.
Sounds awesome. I am absolutely primed to see it, and I will. And now I can just download it for free, legally. Yay. Yeah, you know what? This is a good... let's put this in the unmitigated good news category. It is unmitigated good news, because what is bad about this? It speaks to something so obvious that most people overlook it, which is that we all understand, yeah, it's ridiculous to have something from 100 plus years ago under copyright or some sort of intellectual protection. We don't want to pay, Ugg Cavemanson for the patent on the wheels on our car. We don't want to play his brother Thorg for the campfire that we create, because he did that first, back however many generations ago. Of course, that's nonsense. We all know that. But no, there's some reasonable amount of time in which the government can tell you what you can do with your physical property. Like, you can't have those combination of bits and bytes on your computer because they're owned by someone who's been dead for 20 years. It's total nonsense, but we go along with it because, the economy would collapse if we didn't have these types of protections. Bunk and nonsense. And if people want to know about that bunk and nonsense, they can go to corbettreport.com/IP. I did a podcast on Steal This Podcast, Please, talking about my aversion to intellectual property and the fact that it is, even economically speaking, it's a bad idea, let alone everything else, culturally speaking, etc. So good. Some more stuff is now legally and officially in the public domain, and I hope people will play with it and use this cultural heritage of ours while we can, and in the ways that we can, and make use of this, because this is humanity's really real legacy on this earth.
I have noted, joked, quipped, we will spend the first 100 years of the internet completely analyzing and deconstructing the previous 100 years of pop culture. James, imagine hearing in the news, Beethoven's estate has filed a lawsuit against unlawful Spotify. So let's keep the good news train a running and do a little bit of update roundup. of not unmitigated good news. This was new to me. I learned it from you guys last night when we were exchanging our show notes. Starmer abandons plans for compulsory digital ID. That is a win. Sir Keir Starmer has abandoned plans for mandatory digital ID for workers amid concerns that it'll undermine public trust in the scheme. That's a very hilarious and telling sentence. We're not going to do this because we're worried it might, make you not like this. The Prime Minister had previously announced that the IDs would be compulsory to verify someone's right to work in the UK. Instead, they'll be optional when they are introduced in 2029, with workers given the choice to whether use the documents or to verify their identity digitally instead. Use other documents, paper. A government source said about the compulsory element was stopping conversation about what digital IDs could be used for generally. So they're mad that the public is now getting ahead of them and realizing how this is going to be used against them. The source said stepping back from mandatory use cases will deflate one of the main points of contention. So they admit, we're doing this to take the steam out of your complaints about this. We don't want the risk of their cases being some 65-year-old, oh my God, great-grandpa, 65-year-old in a rural area being barred from working because he hasn't installed the ID. It's what you did to everybody with COVID a couple years ago, but okay, I'll believe you. In September, Starmer said that he would make a new, free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work before the end of this parliament. He said, we need to know who is in our country. Which is a real change of pace, seeing as how they spent the last 20 years calling people racist for worrying about all the people that were coming in. And that IDs would prevent migrants who come here slip into the shadow economy and remain here illegally. Somali daycares could not be reached for comment. Anyone starting a new job would have been required to show the digital ID, which would then be automatically checked against a central database of those entitled to work in the UK. While right-to-work checks will still be mandatory in the form of other forms of documentation, such as an electronic visa or a passport, will be valid. A consultation to start within weeks will explore which verification checks could be used. So they're still figuring out which things they might do. Government said, we are committed to mandatory digital right-to-work checks. We have always been clear that details on the digital ID scheme will be set out following a full public consultation, which will launch shortly. Digital ID will make everyday life easier for people, ensuring public services are more personal, joined up, and effective, while also remaining inclusive. You will be absorbed into the inclusive Borg, and I did see our old buddies, the Freds, tweeting earlier today. I don't believe you. It'll be remarketed, repackaged, renamed, and it'll come back as something else. But still, take this victory. Hold this victory and sort of, as they say, keep that energy, because you know they're going to come back for it again. And maybe think about, in the meantime, hooking up with your English farmers who are not spraying manure all over the place like French farmers might, but it sounds like they're getting close. In other not unmitigated good news updates, data center project cancellations quadrupled in 2025 as the locals fight back, and sure haven't heard anything about the ULEZ cameras anymore. Oh, that's right, because everybody destroyed them and they stopped doing it. Trump may save AM radio. James, I love every single word in that headline. Meanwhile, the U.S. childhood vaccine schedule shrinks, and feeding ourselves, breaking new ground for the local food movement in Ireland. James, there are people all around the world making their moves, making changes, making things happen for themselves, and hopefully in some small way, it's seeds, literal and figurative, that we have hopefully planted in our near 17 years of doing New World Next Week. James, I already Captain Buzzkilled on the UK ID scheme. What about the other ones?
I'm going to pile on the Captain Buzzkill on the digital ID, actually, because, in fact, I will give the credit to Kit Knightley at Off Guardian. I know he's written quite a bit about the digital ID plans of Starmer, and the fact that this was the kind of trial balloon that they put out in front of the public to be shot down, and that the real teeth are coming later. And that could happen in a number of different ways. One that I'll just point to is, as Hakeem Anwar was talking about in my conversation on the only real solution to digital ID, he was talking about the concept of the digital public infrastructure, which is much larger than a singular ID app thing that you download and must use. It's the entire infrastructure of the digital ID and all of the ecosystem of this that's already created and is already functioning, and we're already using various pieces of it already. It's just missing that one single key, and maybe it doesn't even need that singular key. Maybe it's already embedded in the fabric of our reality. So yes, I am not going to say this is a bad thing. It is a good thing, and it represents the fact that the people are at least aware enough, at least have enough of a spidey sense and survival instinct to realize that this digital ID is not a good thing, and we do not want it. But yes, we have to think more deeply about what that is and how we don't let that happen, because they are going to, of course, cry efficiency. It'll be so efficient and wonderful, and the government will be able to help you in so many different ways if you just give into this digital ID. We do not want the government to be efficient. We do not want all of their records to join up nicely. We do not want them to know every aspect of everything we're doing at all times, because that power should not be in the hands of anyone, ever. And unless people understand that that is the basis for our opposition to digital ID, I'm not sure we're really progressing. Anyway, I won't rain on the parade too much. It is, yes, let's all take a moment to pat ourselves on the back, but let's not stop. We have to keep pressing on this issue.
I've just heard from Disney that Spidey sense is a copywritten phrase, James. So you're gonna. And what, can you? I mean, we're gonna hear this. My 6G injection doesn't work unless you get yours too. Who knows how long we might be away from the next giant COVID-like scam? And that reminds me, James, I'm always playing classic Monarchy on my radio broadcast. So it's now that I've been doing it for over 20 years, I can say, here's my episode from this day in 2007. And we were playing New World Next Week. I don't even know what number it is. We weren't numbering them yet, I guess, James. It must have been that small of a number. But this day, 16 years ago, on New World Next Week for January 14th, UNICEF child death campaign in Africa failed. And it links to a BBC article that says this vaccine trial didn't work, and it actually made people more susceptible to the thing we were trying to stop. The second story is about swine flu. They organized the panic. Even forgotten. And they're not even talking about the 1970s swine flu scam. They're talking about the much more recent Obama-era scam. And speaking of, Obama expands federal power over states with what? Trump's executive orders. They're all doing it. They all do the same thing. The names have slightly changed, but it is the same story, James. I was joking in my chat. I was like, damn, I could just play this today and say, hey, here's my new episode for 2026. You know, it's all talking about eugenics and lies and how regardless of which Coke or Pepsi president here in the United States, they'll pretty much stick to the agenda, James. Kind of mind-blowing. I will include the links to that classic 16-year-old episode of New World Next Week. Again, we look all young and positive, and you're in the old school department. You got the big curtain behind you, and we also, on them, I've noticed, have to say, okay, we should probably wrap this up real quick, because they would only let us upload 15 minutes. James, here we are still at this point now, 17 years later. And although the website, newworldnextweek.com, has changed its form and function, it is still there to support Corbett Report and Media Monarchy's work, because you have never heard any advertisements from us. You've just heard the exclusive audio of these New World Next Week episodes before they're published anywhere. I play those on my radio stream, which you can find for free still at MediaMonarchy.com/listen, James. That is about 10 a.m. New Mexico time each morning. And of course, all that'll be linked up, man.
Awesome. Well, I don't know what it's like in New Mexico right now, but it's getting chilly in Japan. So I'm going to put on my Corbett Report toque that you can get at newworldnextweek.com. And if you are a cool kid, then you will get one. And we'll leave it there for this week. James, thanks again for the stories, and looking forward to doing it again next week.
Thanks so much, buddy. Take care, man.
Take care.
Fuck this shit. I'm just gonna dance now. Fuck this shit. 'Cause we don't have a chance now. The whole world is fucking gone to hell. Makes me wanna fucking shit. I'm just gonna dance now, fuck this shit, 'cause we don't have a chance now.
Guys, all rock. Thank you for being here and hanging out and being a part of the show. We do love the hell out of you, and we can't do the damn thing without you. It's a value for value gig here. If you're new here, you're kind of, just getting into the thing. This is how the show works. Every time you see not only AM Wake Up, but every other show that airs on the channels, all of that content comes to you for free. Nothing is ever going to be put behind a paywall. There's no subscribe to this to get that. You don't have to learn a secret handshake. We get $0 from advertisers. We get $0 from paid sponsors. That's why you don't hear 10 or 12 minutes of ad reads and shit at the beginning of the show or throughout it, because it doesn't exist in this environment. Instead, if you guys see value in what we're doing, you like the conversations, you like the guests, you like the jokes, whatever it is, if you see value in that, send it this way, and that's how we get to do the thing. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can participate. There's a couple of things that we definitely need to see from you guys. Most importantly, time, talent, and treasure. Time and talent, because it's just me doing all of the things 7 days a week in order to make sure that you guys see this stuff and I participate and hit the fucking like button. It's not going to break your wrist. I promise. I promise. On the talent end, if you make clips, please do that and get them out there. I don't care if 3 people are going to see it. If you tag us, we'll retweet it too, and then 3 more people are going to see it. The way that we're buried in the algorithm. But, it helps. Every little bit helps. Exact same philosophy applies to the treasure part. Every little bit helps. If you're at all in a position to contribute to independent media, all of the direct donate links, including Bitcoin, are in the description. So if you have, 55 Bitcoin and you want to give the show 1, it's going to get dispersed to at least 5 other content creators that day.
Kind of a fucking ass clown wouldn't have the heart and compassion to donate to baby Steve.
Now, let's take a look at some highlights from AM Wake Up from this week. Make sure to support and share their show to keep this great channel going. Share the show. Share the show. Share the show.
Share the fucking show.
Rayleigh's setting fires. We'll get into all that and a lot more this morning. Before that, let's talk about a different operation where lots of fires were lit. Mostly to crack pipes, but let's do some jokes.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up, homies?
Hello, brother.
Never seen y'all before. You new to the hood?
Yeah, we're from a ghetto in a different city.
Oh, y'all from DC?
What?
Got a skins hat on. DC.
Oh! Yeah. Oh! Yeah, we're from a ghetto in D.C. Yes. But not like the CIA or anything. Man, I am just really stressed out lately. Just really, really tense. Dude, you should try some of this crack. That's a great idea. Some crack would really hit the spot right now.
What y'all talking about?
Oh, it's just this new and expensive way to get incredibly high. You wouldn't be interested.
Yeah, no, you're right. Gotta keep my mind clear, stick to the books. Trying to go to school in the fall.
Yeah, it's just this new way to help you get into school this fall. You wouldn't be interested.
Wait. This can actually help me get into school?
Yeah, just a little bit'll really help you concentrate on your studies. Plus, you could sell it and save all that money for college. Just an ounce of it will get you up to $100.
$100? Wow, that would help me pay for all my books and stuff.
Yeah, it could help you pay for all your books and stuff.
$100 an ounce. Wait a minute. What's that gonna cost me?
Oh, for you. We have 2 vans full of it over there for free.
Free? That's great.
And remember, it's called crack.
Crack.
Yeah, C-R-A-C-K, crack. Here's a pager if you need any more.
Wow. Guys, wait. I just want to say this is a blessing. I don't know if you noticed, but things have been kind of rough around here. Holding down 3 jobs, got a baby girl coming in May. I just wasn't sure how I was going to make it, but this is really going to help me get my life back on track. So thanks, guys. Thank you.
Hey, just doing what we can. Here to help.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Oh, by the way, there aren't any up-and-coming Martin Luther King Jr. types we should know about, are there?
Bad. Yeah. Shout out to everybody from Whitest Kids that's still around, and of course the late great gone way too suspiciously soon Trevor Moore. Right when I played it on the show, but the dudes over at Whitest Kids, just slapped in a quick edit on the Moon Bear press conference skit, and instead of Iran, they just slapped in Venezuela over the top of it but they're on it. Yeah. Okay. Now you guys know that I'm not by any means a fan of Nikki Glaser. Certainly not her singing career. The fucking Bob Saget song was frightening. Yeah. But what I'm about to play is merely Nikki Glaser delivering jokes that other people wrote for her because she was hosting the Golden Globes. Why we still do award ceremonies anymore in general is weird. But LA has to make themselves feel even more important than they already think they are. So Golden Globes, and Nikki Glaser used it as an opportunity to get people to write Epstein jokes for her. So let's hear those.
I cannot believe the amount of
I forgot how fucking obnoxious this woman's voice is. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry.
star power we have in this room tonight. It's insane. There's so many A-listers. And by A-listers, I do mean people who are on A-list that has been heavily redacted. But yes. And the Golden Globe for Best Editing goes to the Justice Department. Yes, congratulations. And the award for most editing goes to CBS News. Yes, CBS News, America's newest place to see BS News.
So, hey, how much you want to bet Hinchcliffe wrote one of those? You know she didn't. You know that. Yeah, she looks like she's dressed as Sam Smith when he was dressed as like a lady devil. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I just thought it was funny they're doing Epstein jokes at the Golden Globes. But like that's how you know that nobody's getting in trouble for that. Nobody's going to jail over it. They're just sitting there out in the open where, joke or not, there probably are people in the freaking room that were on the were on the Epstein list. There probably were. Which is crazy to think about that you can just openly discuss. I mean, they were doing the same shit when with Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that. They're all gross. No, if you get a golden pager, it's from Israel. Don't accept that pager. Don't. Just say no. Okay. Now over to somebody who can actually tell jokes.
I recently found out that the girl I'm dating, her ex is a Navy SEAL. That sucks. I never even thought it. You want to feel insecure as a man? That's the word. I never even thought of that one as like that could happen to me. I spent my whole life thinking black guy, worst case on this. This is a tough ex to make fun of. Just when I'm walking around the apartment all day, just fucking Navy SEALs. They're kind of pussies if you really think about it. You know what I mean? Like using night vision, sneaking up on guys. That's a fucking coward's way to fight, dude. You know who's actually brave? Al-Qaeda. That takes courage and bravery. It's in pajamas, throwing rocks at tanks. Heroic shit, dude. Just you and your boys going out. In flip-flops. You're all going to get fucked up, dude. Zero military training, dude. Those dudes, they had one set of monkey bars. That's what they all trained on. And they were proud of the monkey bars. You remember that video? They filmed themselves using the monkey bars and then sent that tape out to the world like, not bad. I don't know if you know this. The war in the Middle East is just on the internet. The whole every dude out there on both sides was wearing GoPros the entire time. Like you can watch it. We watched like 3 hours of the war in Iraq. And after the first hour, I found myself starting to not cheer, but like relate. I felt like I could relate more to the monkey bars guys. You know what I mean? They were a little more my speed. Those are just normal fucking dudes. Second shots are fired. There's no game plan. They were just, no shit. Try to fire a rocket, it goes straight fucking backwards. They look like me trying to fire a gun. Their feet move when they shoot. They also have never won. They got fucked up every single time. Bad. They would blow up like one truck every 5 months. They'd be just as surprised as everybody. Finally worked out. You could hear it in their voice. Someone would blow up, they'd be like, oh! It's like, yeah, dude, that's a human reaction. That's relatable. That's what I would do if I saw a fucking explosion. I'd go, oh! That's human. You ever watch us kill people? I can't relate to that at all. There's some Black Hawk helicopter with night vision, mows down like 40 people. Pilot gets on, he just goes, clear. Just flies away. It's like, yo, that's a psycho. That guy didn't give a fuck about that. I recently found out that the girl I'm dating, her...
Yay. Oh. That's just terrible. Oh man. Like, I mean, I guess he had to rug pull quickly because, you know, by the time that commercial actually got around, it'd be so roundly mocked and an embarrassment that you'd have to cut and run. I would think so. Just wild. Let's see. Okay, let's go from New York to, I guess, second New York, which is Tel Aviv. No, this is I think a Sky News interview. Yeah, Sky News interview with an Israeli soldier with his face blurred out. Which is going to lead to a couple other stories about interviews with Israeli soldiers and the official IOF policy regarding media appearances for people under a certain rank. But first,
an Israeli reservist who served in Gaza has told Sky News IDF troops killed Palestinian civilians at random, with orders to shoot sometimes dependent on the mood of the commander. The IDF strongly denies the claim, saying it operates against military targets, not civilians.
So the IDF is still trying to convince people that they don't target civilians, even after the last 2+ years of complete civilizational destruction. And yeah, okay, sure, buddy. But yeah,
our international correspondent Alex Rossi has the story for us.
I think everything in a war is kind of messes you up.
It is rare to hear Israeli soldiers speak openly about their time in Gaza. But after 3 tours of duty, this reservist says his conscience won't let him stay silent.
Every commander can choose for himself what he does, so it's kind of like Wild West. And so some commanders can really decide to do war crimes and do bad things and like don't have very consequences of that.
He agreed to talk on condition of anonymity, fearing he could be labeled a traitor or ostracized at home. These photos were taken while he was serving in Gaza, where he was stationed in the homes of displaced Palestinians.
I think you can't be in this scenario for so long and not like normalize it and not like kind of you lose your mind and then killing is more and more normalized and you can't see the problem in it. Kind of feel like I took part of something bad. And so I think it's like I need to counter it with something good that I do. And I hope that by speaking of it, it can change like how things are being done. And I think a lot of people, if they knew exactly what's happening, they wouldn't, it wouldn't go down very good for them. And they won't agree with it.
Alex Rossi, Sky News, Jerusalem.
Right. Yes, moon rentals. We'll get there.
And spend billions of dollars and start making money for the country.
So let's hit the brakes on this for a minute because there are about 6 minutes left, and I want to bring up Ryan Christian, founder and host of Last American Vagabond. How you doing, brother?
Good morning. Just quick test. Let me know if is the audio sound okay? Is it reverberating, echoey?
No.
Awesome. So I basically found a speaker that I plug in lieu of my headphones, and so now I can have the audio coming out right here. So cool.
Wow.
I work around for the moment. I'm just
all right.
If Firefox happens to stop working, I'm absolutely screwed at this point. It works out, but
don't say that out loud. Don't just.
I mean, it's not like this is, we'll see. But what's cracking this morning? What's going on? What were you getting into already?
Well, there's an account on Twitter called Blunts for Jesus that does incredible video edits, and this one it was a little like 6-7 minute dive on kind of the motivation behind Trump acquiring Venezuela, and that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, is anybody even confused about this? I mean, what's interesting is, as we talked about right in the beginning, you know, oil is clearly always been relevant. Even there was that moment where it was like, you know, I mean, it was just oil was clearly the focal point before. It's never stopped being relevant. It's valuable, right? It's very clearly relevant. But when this all started and Trump came out and just was very clear about that, I almost got the sense that that was because we all know that. And that was meant to sort of, you know, nobody's mentioned the lithium, which is gigantically important, right? Not nobody, but, you know, in the main, it's not even brought up really. Rare earth minerals, very clearly, gold, you know, all sorts of other aspects to it. And so I felt like that was a way to sort of distance from what was probably the most important. But then at the same time, like Robert made some excellent arguments in an article he put up on TLAV about what we've talked about before, the importance of the shipping lanes, right? The Strait of Hormuz and Iran's ability to shut that down. And this is what we've always talked about, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in Yemen and Oman and Somalia and all these different points of control to allow another access route or a way around it. And his point was that realistically, or at least, you know, you could potentially see that the seizing of their oil and continuing to profit and control their industry could give them the ability to circumvent, like just have a safety net should Iran do that. So that alone, I argue, is enough to say, okay, and look at what's happening. Now they are aggressively leaning back into Iran. Trump's coming out today saying, we're with you, protesters. It's like, so the point being that they've been waiting for this to, you know, if they were going after Iran and Iran shut down Strait of Hormuz, that would cause global issues, and particularly for Israel, the United States, and the West for the most part. And now that they have this oil, they believe that gives them that safety net. This is just hypothetical. Who knows what's in their mind? But those are really valid points, and the timing can't be missed. I mean, it's obviously been building, but look at over the last so many days, the very sharp increase in the fake protests and the, you know, like it's just very, very obvious. And it's been that way so long.
Well, and the obviousness of Mossad being on the ground, active in the direct admission
they owned it. They said it very
should have people going, hey, wait a minute, maybe this isn't Iranians desperately clinging to the idea of self-governance out of a theocracy.
Yeah, but this is so interesting because this is what, you know, the kind of ubiquitous nature. Well, that's the wrong term, like the synchronicity between the U.S. government, but right now his administration and just what Israel's propaganda style is like. It's insanely clear, you know? And so when you look at that, it's, hold on, I just lost the thread. What was the first part?
Mossad active in the protests?
Yes. So the point being that ultimately, instead of trying to hide what would otherwise be obvious, you know, they essentially, just knowing that, you know, we already feel this way, they just come out and own it as if that explains why it's not a problem. You know what I mean? Just like yelling and pointing to the problem out loud. But Trump continues to do the same thing, is my point. And so when they come out and do that, it's, you know, it's as if, well, we're the good guys, so why would that be a problem? We're in there fighting for freedom. You know, it's like that's the kind of lazy overlay that we're seeing. I mean, even Pompeo came out and said, as well as the Mossad agents marching alongside them, they've already admitted to putting out messages in Farsi. And, you know, and look, this means question everything, but in my opinion, it's quite obviously something we know is happening, that on top of being there, they're conducting all sorts of psychological operations, many of which they actually own up to, you know, like that to a degree, but also like cyber attacks. We've seen the power go out. Is anybody confused about how that happens every time these things start, you know, and then they just go, oh, it's just because of infrastructure. They're just bad at what they do. It just so happens to line up right when you guys are protesting. It's clearly an attack, you know, like it's so obvious. And this is what I think everything is like right now. From the ICE shooting to you can engage with the facts, or you can choose to just fight for your team. You know, and there's a very small sliver of people, I think, somewhere in between that. It's if you're honest, you can see what these things look like. If you're honest, you can see that Kristi Noem blatantly lied about the way that our shooting went down to begin with. They didn't rush up and surround the guys and they had to protect themselves. That's what she said. You know, it's like, it takes a special kind of willful ignorance to not see how clearly dishonest all this is, even if you still think that he had a right to shoot or so on, you know?
Hey, go easy on Luke Rudkowski. He's trying.
What'd he say?
He's you know, basically the fucking, well, if she didn't want to get shot, she shouldn't have tried to hit him kind of thing.
God. right? I mean, that's see, this is, he would have made fun of that statement years ago.
I know.
What I mean? I bet you we can even pull up examples of that where it's like the whole what's the overlay to that, or the overlap, like you know, oh yeah, if you don't have anything to hide, then what are you worried about? That's exactly the same point, right? And he's called that out in the past. Man, you know, it's the Tim Pools and these people that came out right away and were just like, you know, without even having all the facts in front of us. You know, this show, there's no denying that even if it turned out to be what they thought, they were screening the narrative before we had the facts, just like with Tyler Robinson. You know, again, I'm not going to stop. It's because it's a broken record at this point, but I will always continue to highlight that point, right? That I think most people see through this right now. I really.
Hey, well, welcome to it. Hope everybody's doing well. What's going on, Tease? How are you, buddy?
I'm trying to do better, I guess. Slowly, it's like an interesting emotional ride processing a third world war that we're being gassed through as it continues to get worse. So, yeah,
Whoa.
on a small level, trying to figure that. How about you?
All right, you were doing some weird audio clippy stuff there for a minute.
The words that I said, or just the clips that clipped?
No, it's like you've got some extra setting on or something like that, because there's like a echo.
Is it still? Is it that thing still? Or
Mm-hmm.
okay. I don't have video. Yeah, I think so.
Maybe hop out and hop back in.
Give me a second. Just toggle the mic.
While you're doing that, I'll pull up some jokes.
Well, I can tell a joke.
Go for it. Yeah, please do. Please. Yeah.
There was a little boy in
My
school
audio
named
still
Dirty
clogged.
Johnny. Now, he's not dirty in this job.
That's better.
But he'd always be a hellion in class, and the teacher didn't think much of him. So the teacher has a project, or not a project, but an in-class thing. How'd that go again? She says, now, this is what you're going to do here, class. I want you to stand up and tell the class what a story from your life, and then afterwards say the moral to that story. So a girl puts up her hand. Yes, Becky. What's your story? So Becky stands up. She goes, my dad works for the hatchery here in town, and what happens was he got about 15 eggs, and he put them all in one basket, all the same basket. So he put all his eggs in one basket, and he put it on the horse and buggy and drove back home. And by God, Becky says the bouncing and all the eggs broke. Well, that's a good story, the teacher says, but what would the moral be to that? Becky says, well, the moral is don't put all your eggs in the one basket. But goddamn, says the teacher, that's a good one. Anybody else? Marjorie puts up her hand. Marjorie, what's your story? She says, well, my dad works for the hatchery, as all of us. Thank God for the hatchery. She says, or we'd all be lost. But anyways, my dad knows that eggs become chickens. And so he was counting his chickens, and he added in the eggs, you see. And then he put them on a horse and buggy to go to town, and they all broke. Well, what's the lesson to that? The teacher says she can't understand. And she says, well, don't count your chickens before they hatch out of an egg. So the teacher says, that's a great one, too. Anybody else? Well, wouldn't you know, Dirty Johnny has his hand up. So the teacher's like, holy God, I don't want it. But on the other hand, I made an oath to every child, should I suppose I gotta. All right, Dirty Johnny, what do you have to say? Johnny stands up. Stories about my Uncle Terry. He never worked at the hatchery. On account he was in Vietnam, and he got disability. You don't even like people who work at the hatchery. But the story happened far from these shores, in a little town called Da Nang. Terry was not well liked. His whole troop left him, abandoned. And he woke up in the weeds, and all they left him with was 3 bottles of Jack Daniels, some weapons. Terry stood up and downed 1 bottle right away. Said, if I'm going out, I'm going out. He took his Balishnikov and a couple of Glocks and his 2 bottles, and away he went. He found a town. And he didn't know if it was Charlie or if it was one he was sent to protect. But all he knew was he had hate in his gut. So he started firing. And he fired the Kalashnikov with an arcing kind of, like a farmer would with hay, with a scythe. And sure enough, the men fell like hay before him. And then the women, and by God, I'm ashamed to say it, but then the children. And finally, all was left was Uncle Terry standing in the mud and the blood and the glory. And he touched his pants, and it was wet, and he said he was ashamed. He felt shame, Uncle Terry, for he'd pissed himself. Well, he touched it again. It was not urine at all, but ejaculate. And Uncle Terry felt pride where shame once was. And their teacher's like, good Christ, what kind of a story is that? What the hell is the moral to that? Well, he says, when Uncle Terry's been drinking, you don't fuck with him.
With prominent people. Yeah, he only needed to catch one, and I don't even think it was a bullet.
Our country was founded on faith, just how you said, and also the American dream. And so often I find that we are so caught up on being politically correct, and I feel like that's made us a softer nation. I would like for you to just highlight on the fact of political correctness and what you think my generation prior and previous, what we can do to make us not seem so soft as a nation.
Well, your generation in particular has to understand that youth is no excuse for ignorance. And you go back and you look at people like Nathan Hale. He was a teenage spy for America, a rebel. When he was caught and ready to be executed, he says, my only regret is I have but one life to give for my nation. Think about that. Versus what most young people think about today. And the fact that so many are ignorant of history makes them very easy fodder for those who wish to manipulate. And they come in and they say, oh, well, look at what's going on, and these people are racist and these people are sexist and these people are this and that. And of course, if you don't have any base of knowledge, then you just say, yeah, I'm mad about that. Yeah, exactly. And those manipulators take advantage of that. And I want our young people to recognize that they're smart. They got these big frontal lobes and the ability to analyze just like those rabble-rousers do. And at the very least, they should be asking, pertinent questions.
I agree completely. Thank you.
You've touched on another that you started with, education. I love history, and I think that's
why does it always go back to either espionage or some sort of treason thing with her? And okay, I don't, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's weird, man. Let's try it. What's up, Dees?
Can I say words now?
Seems that way.
Okay. I'm going to tell the tightest joke. All right. Like, I guess stop. So this is from the, and it's just like me trying to be funny, recreating the joke. That's a pretty good one. And it's like two economists are hanging out together, and one of them spots some dog poop, and he's all like, "Hey, I'll give you $20 to eat that dog poop." And the guy's like, "All right, I'll take that deal." And he does it, and he eats the dog poop, and he feels a little bit bad about it. And then later, he spots some dog poop, and says to the other economist, "It's like, hey, I'll pay you $20 to eat that dog poop." And the other economist is like, "All right, yeah, I'll take that." And so he eats it. And they're both walking around later, and they're like, "Wow, that was pretty stupid. We both ate dog poop, and neither of us are any richer." And then the other economist was like, "What are you talking about? The GDP went up by $40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
John Titus joke. It's fantastic. Like, man, that's perfectly encapsulates the shit-eating economy of utter absurdity and the way in which people destroy themselves and then everything around them for the sake of numbers when all they're doing is just fucking it up and eating shit. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, speaking of eating shit, here's RFK Jr. talking about Donald Trump's diet.
Who has the most unhinged eating habits?
The president. The interesting thing about the president is that he eats really bad food, which is McDonald's, and then, candy and Diet Coke. But he drinks the Diet Coke all times. He has the constitution of a deity. I don't know how he's alive, but he is. And he's at Mar-a-Lago. He says that the only time that he eats the junk food is when he's on the road, and he wants to eat food from big corporations because he trusts it. He doesn't want to get sick when he's on the road. But when he's at Mar-a-Lago or at the White House, he's eating really good food. So I think you get this, if you travel with him, you get this idea that he's just pumping himself full of poison all day long, and you don't know how he's walking around, much less being the most energetic person any of us have ever met.
Yeah. It turns out when you shove yourself full of poison, you preserve your inner organs so thoroughly that disease can't touch it.
That'd be interesting. It's like, instead of living dead zombie phenomena, it's the gradual mummification from within from that which is not able to rot. So you just become like a walking plastic cylinder spreading the flavor of McDonald's French fries everywhere that you go. Sure. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Right. I'm joking with Charlie Robinson last week that Chrystia Friedland probably smells like old McDonald's French fries. Her human suit.
I don't know. What is like a slow burn coke overdose that someone lets out of their pores and an amphetamine twitch smell like?
The Motley Crue tour bus.
Wouldn't go on it, and I sure as hell wouldn't sit in it, because I'm pretty sure if you took a black light to it, it was growing levels of semen combined with sediment.
Probably. Yeah, you would assume. At any rate, they were some wild boys, apparently.
Yeah.
I would like to share this little piece of my childhood with all of you guys. I think we played it on the show before, but in case we haven't, this is just one of those things that, like, growing up in central Indiana, this commercial ran, I don't know, 10 or 15 times a day. And there was a Don's Guns in my hometown.
Well, I got a gun shop on the north side, shooting range and all. Another one on the south side, across from Greenwood Mall. You've been in both, can't decide which is best. I've just created a problem, folks, cause now I got one west. Hi, folks. This is Don from Don's Guns. I didn't want anything. I just always wanted to sing on TV.
Give us a call on anything in here that you want other than guns. I can't sell you a gun by federal regulation, but I've got scopes, I've got reloading equipment, holsters, and on and on and on. Why? You know why, folks. I don't want to make any money. I just love to sell them. Thank you, folks.
Yep. Old Don. Don's Guns.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Gomez. Hey, buddy. What's up, dork? Yeah, if you grew up in Indiana or in the 80s or 90s, you definitely remember Don and Don's Guns. Crazy. Yeah, they had they had throwing stars and all that kind of shit. You could get all kinds of weird weapons there. Oh boy. Let's see. Do you remember Havana syndrome? Tease?
I nodded yes. I remembered.
Oh, sorry, I was off. Yeah, I was pulling up the article.
Either the legitimate usage of EMF weapons against states members in a particular region, or the conflating of that with something that was a natural phenomena, or blah 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 blah. Yeah.
So Newsweek, the state propaganda outlet that it is, effectively, put this article out yesterday by a senior defense reporter who looks to be about 9.
Yeah, she looks like she's 15 or something, so okay.
Yeah, senior reporter. Pentagon has tested a device that investigators believe. Can you turn your speakers down just a little bit? You keep hearing me coming back through them. Tested a device that investigators believe may be linked to the condition commonly referred to as Havana syndrome. Defense Department has been testing the device, which was bought during an undercover operation by DHS for over a year. Network reported on Monday, citing 4 anonymous sources briefed on the subject. So we've got 4 anonymous sources talking about a direct energy weapon that was purchased in an undercover operation. Newsweek reached out to various 3-letter agencies outside of regular office hours on Tuesday. Doesn't appear to be updated with a response, though.
Hold on. It's like, I almost like feel for the people in the various different echelons of Black Ops, State Department, blah, blah, blah. Because it's like, at this point, everyone knows that they're an evil criminal enterprise that are torturing us slowly using multifaceted technology, and it's yet to be fully disclosed to the public. Okay, fine. And so for them, they're probably like, well, everyone knows that we're evil douchebags. Why can't we just be evil douchebags? Why do we always have to go through this like dog and pony, like gradual releasing it to the public through news and press releases? Why can't we just be evil on its face already? And then it's like, no, we need to send it to this 9-year-old who's a senior editor at Newsweek so they can set up a fake story with anonymous sources about buying it from ourselves in order to slowly trickle that out into a state of awareness to induce learned helplessness in the civilian population that we're targeting through this, 5th generational warfare. And it's like, I'm sorry that you guys have to keep hiding what evil shitsmear fuck-ring retards you are through these various different slow trickle news media techniques. That really has to suck for the evil pieces of shit working in those various different government laboratories. So yeah, I feel for you guys. Wow, it's really tough.
So this is their story about the Havana syndrome causing device that they totally didn't build at Boston Dynamics or fucking, General Labs or fucking what, it's absolutely something that was purchased in an undercover operation.
It's probably the Chinese or the Russians, Steve. Let's continue to slap stickers on things.
It could be both.
Right? The overlapping sticker. Oh, it's the bricks that we have built to look like it's different than what you were already. Just another in the wall.
So 2 of the unnamed sources said officials in the previous administration purchased the device for an 8-figure sum. That's a lot of money. Funding was provided by the Department of Defense. According to the report, speculation swirled some form of direct energy weapon could be behind the baffling illness and that Russian technology could be behind the symptoms. Moscow has denied any involvement. The device acquired by the Homeland Security Investigations, part of DHS, produces pulsed radio waves. One source told CNN it contains Russian components, but is not entirely Russian made. U.S. Intelligence Report 2025. So most of the American intelligence community still doubted a foreign adversary was behind Havana syndrome, but one U.S. intelligence agency believed there is a roughly even chance a foreign actor had used a novel weapon or prototype device to induce the symptoms. So then they started shopping around for one, right? Let's see. Kremlin denies any involvement. Ned Price, State Department spokesweasel, told reporters in January 2023 there was a major effort underway to get to the bottom of Havana syndrome involving the White House, Pentagon, State Department, intelligence agencies, Congress, and scientists, along with several Boy Scout chapters and 2 volunteers at a local animal shelter. They are...
As well as 5 turtle doves licking their nuts so that they don't ever have to touch solid ground or planet Earth.
Yeah, this is the whole week this week, or last 2 weeks, really. They've been filling airwaves and the interwebs with stories about the existence of all of these, energy weapons that are being used. The whole kidnapping of Maduro, where the report is, they had one sonic pulse weapon that destabilized, up to 100 people or something like that. And they're putting it all out right now. And I'm curious as to what you think the reasoning behind advanced weapon system disclosure at this particular point would be. Is it just propaganda to scare future enemies?
I think that they need our passive consent to that slow roll disclosure to acclimate us to the point of expecting it. And then when you expect it, it's the panopticon effect, which will induce both the psychosomatic emergence of things in a paranoid mindset, the reality of it when it's actually implemented. So it's like they don't usually do things for one reason. It's many different things at once. They could also basically just need to, I guess, kind of disclose incrementally creepier, more dictatorial methods in order to acclimate us for that as a just kind of once again, the panopticon effect. It's it's out there, it's everywhere. We know that it could be targeting anyone at any time. That is kind of just an upping of the register. And if we are just a passive recipient of that, it's no big deal, then it's kind of karmically the equivalent of saying, okay, well, I guess that's something that we're in for now. Versus, no, what are you guys talking about? What are you doing? Why do you think that you're doing it responsibly? And stop doing it altogether.
I was born in the G code embedded in my blood. We don't talk to bodies, we don't make a peace bond. We ain't trusting in the judicial system, we shoot guns. We rely on the streets, we do battle in the hood. I was born in the G code embedded in my blood.